what's good, guys? Welcome to another episode of Sit Down and Shut Up. I'm Juzzy. I'll just get this mic in the right spot. Alright, cool. Hey, yo, Halo, what's good? Welcome to a Saturday night stream, 8 p.m. Pacific time. I don't know, maybe this is a good time to stream. I don't know, who knows? One sec, guys. Alright, guys, so today we have Flexium. They are a Master Bison, actually, right now. But they are going to be running Ken today, and they're Diamond 2 with Ken. So, what they say is that they've been playing it for 2 weeks. They like them. They hit Master with Bison a little bit before this. They kind of want to know, how the game plan is and understanding options on how to play Ken. I think the questions they had are like, what are the neutral options? What options for pressure in the corner? Understanding mix of some Jinrai and all that stuff, right? So, cool. So let me get them on, and we can chat it up. Just one sec here. Hey, Flexium, can you hear me? Hey, one sec. Yeah. Let me just make sure I got the right Discord here. All right, cool. I think you should be audible on stream now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, perfect. I think you're audible on stream now. Cool. So yeah, I was just reading through. I'm glad you are able to find time for this. Happen to have a window of
Oh
opportunity.
no,
So
yeah, thank you. I mean, you're the one doing me a favor. I always try to help other people out. I was actually just helping a guy, but it's also good to get help from somebody that's better than you and keep improving myself. So,
sure, man. Cool. So I saw when you had originally signed up, you were talking about you're running Bison. Looks like you switched to Ken. And you're running Ken today, right?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I played Bison. I got him to Masters, and I love him. But I think in terms of a long-term character, I wanted somebody with Fireball with an EXTP, a little bit more well-rounded.
Okay.
But I still like the offensive pressure that Ken can bring.
Sure.
So I'm still kind of bouncing around. But past few weeks, I've been almost exclusively Ken, and he's been a lot of fun. So
Okay.
um, it's been a blast.
Right on, right on. So let me invite you to a custom room here, and while I'm talking about that, basically what we're gonna do is we'll run a first to three. We'll play through the games,
Okay.
and then we'll do a replay review after that. So we'll talk about some situations I think are worth bringing up, maybe some situations you may have some questions on or whatever. I think you have a Ryu set up right now, Platinum 3.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
currently set to Rios
Okay, just
from
making
my
sure I'm
buddy.
getting the
Yeah.
right person. Okay.
Perfect. Yep.
So yeah, we'll do a first 3D replay review, and then potentially some
Okay.
lab work depending on if there's any situations that we may want to talk about in depth. And then if there's time at the end, we'll run another first to three to see if anything that we talked about helped out or not. Sound reasonable?
Okay. Perfect.
Cool.
Yep. Sounds good to
Cool.
me.
So what we do is go ahead and queue up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna deafen in Discord, so that's why you don't hear me talking and potentially influencing what you're doing. Also,
Okay.
I may not rematch right away, mostly because I'll be
Sure.
talking about stuff and trying to write things down if I could find a notepad, or at least talking about what talking about what I'm seeing and all that, so that I can mentally prepare myself for what we want to talk about in the replay review. So all right,
Yeah.
man.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Cool. All right. So good luck, and I'll chat you with you after.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I've been dropping my Oki, but
You'll be good
hopefully
to
I'll
go.
land a couple. So
You'll be fine.
yeah.
All right, man.
Okay.
All right, Flexium. I don't think I've played them before. No, I don't think I've played them before. So let's see what's going on here. Master Bison though, so they should know what they're doing for the most part, probably. Nice. Nice whiff punish. Oh, I didn't DP. Oh, he missed. Oh. messed up. They were trying to level 1, and I messed up a little bit there. That's okay. Good DP. Okay, I mean, their neutral is pretty solid. A couple of good whiff punishes here and there. A couple of situations where I think they, you know, it's tough to defend that in that situation. But they're pretty patient overall. Not a lot of jumps, not a lot of Dragon Lashes. They missed their level 1, which is unfortunate. But I was blocking anyway, though, right? And then I dropped the win at the end there. But otherwise, you know, I'm not hating anything I'm seeing, right? They're not doing anything particularly bad in neutral. A little bit of rollback, but... Okay. Side switch. Okay. A lot of backing up, though. Okay. Yeah, I think what happens is they are backing up right... what am I going to say? They're backing up a little bit right after kind of these block strings. Pretty common. Alright, they should reversal here if he's smart. Nope, no reversal. Oh. You got a reversal here, right? I think it's gonna whiff. Oh no, it hits. Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, I think like what's happening is in neutral, they're kind of pressing buttons, which is fine. But what ends up happening is after pressure kind of stops, they back up, and they're right now they're being passive, right? Because I'm, oh, or they get hit there. You can see how the delay button is getting him, right? Oh, that time they insta-tech. See, right there. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of rollback, and that's whatever. But I think a lot of what's happening is some of the neutral decisions, like after blocking something, if I delay my crouching medium kick. Oh, that was nice. Stuffed it. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't hate anything they're doing, honestly. A lot of their decision-making neutral is fine. Defensively is mostly okay. Some of the issues mostly are around them getting hit in neutral. So, let's bring them back on. Hey, how'd that go? What do you think?
I thought it was okay. I didn't get to show much. I had the read that you were going for, especially second half, you
Mm-hmm.
were going for like tick throws or like two jabs and a throw and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I was just overwhelmed by the initial pressure. I couldn't quite get the timing right.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, what I do though is like I'll have a read. So let's say if I think they're going to go for three lights, I'll try to parry the second or third light and then take back, like, swap it over to my turn. And
Mm-hmm.
then if I think they're going to go for a tick throw, what I'll typically try to do is I'll go for like a 5 MP into like a side swap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Typically, I'll be in the corner, but I didn't quite get the ladder off, which is okay. And then I think otherwise, like I had to read early on that I was my tendency is to hold down and down back,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even parry, and then you were throwing me a good bit to open me up, and then
Mm-hmm.
once I was open up, you were doing more things, and so I was trying to do the same to you as well. I think you were going for a good bit of parries in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't able to get as many throws in as probably I should have.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time I did drive rush, you would parry it, so maybe I just needed to do a drive rush throw after I had that read.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So what I was saying on stream, and you'll probably see this in the VOD when you look, if you look at it later, is that most of the stuff you're doing is totally fine, in neutral. Like the buttons you're pressing, the spacing you're pressing it at, right? Some of it I think is just a little bit of spacing unfamiliarity with Ken. Like there were some
yeah.
spots where I thought maybe you were standing a little too far, maybe a little too close, right? It's not a huge issue though. Something you can work through. And then on defense, a couple of situations where maybe we can go over some of that decision making and see what was happening. So I grabbed a couple of
Okay.
replays here. I grabbed our first game and then our third game. So hopefully
Okay.
we'll see some of the tendencies come out. So I'm gonna stream this in Discord so that you can see
Okay.
what I'm talking about, and the audio
Perfect.
will
And
be
then, sorry,
synced.
just
Hmm?
one more thing to add to the list if we get around to it is even though I played like Kimberly, Bison, Jury, Ken now, like these rushdown oriented characters,
Hmm.
I'm always playing a little bit more hesitant. And that's not always a bad thing, but early on it was like, okay, they're gonna do something random, so just wait until they hang themselves, punish them, and go from there.
Hmm.
But I want to get better at like opening people up myself and
Okay.
knowing when to be more aggressive, how to do that and stuff. Like I'm afraid to walk up and like do three lights right away, so I'll get it on Oki when they like wake up, but to like just get that close and neutral, it's so scary to me. I'm like they're gonna jump, they're gonna hit me with something random. So
Yeah. Yeah.
especially as Ken though, like I know how it looks. I see pros do it. I see better Kens than me do it. Like the pressure that they exert, and I
Hmm.
want to try to do that more myself as well.
Okay.
So
Okay. Cool. So yeah, what I'll say is that a lot of what you're talking about comes from kind of space control, right? So let me preface it by
yep,
what you're talking about. Like, you're talking about originally, like, there's two parts to this, right? The first part is you run into someone in ranked, you have no idea how they're gonna play, right? Like, you
yep,
have, so you wait for them to establish what their play style is, right? Maybe they're completely random, maybe they do a lot of unsafe stuff, whatever. And then once you kind
hmm
of figure that out, it sounds like if you're able to mostly stop players that are quote unquote random, right? They are doing unsafe things, they're taking a lot of risk. You're able to stop that. What tends to get you, I think, is when a player doesn't do that, right? And they're able to
yep.
exert that pressure onto you, and a lot of that pressure ends up being more or less real, right? You can't match against it, right? You have to actually guess, right? But
Correct.
a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of
just
what, yeah.
waiting, and then they don't do something random, and then now they're doing to me what I wanted to do to
When
them.
yeah, yeah, it's like this is how I want to be playing this way, right? I want to be the one knocking you down. I want to be the one doing all right. So let's look through
Yep.
the replay. Let me find some situations that maybe we can talk about more with a concrete example. So I stream in Discord now. You should be able to see my screen, right? Just let me know.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, cool. So let me go ahead and go through the replay here. So this is our first match, I believe. So
Correct.
yep,
So I'm just trying to
yep,
get a read of you and stuff.
yep.
I played
So
safe early there.
yep, so that was good, right? So went for early shimmy, which is fine, right? Like in this situation right here, 9 times out of 10, the delayed tech is the correct thing, quote unquote, to do. So that's fine,
Yep.
right? So I get shimmied, right? Take the stand heavy punch. This is a fine combo here. The stand heavy punch into Jinrai. Another
Yeah.
combo you could
I
look
probably could
into.
have buffered it, right?
Yeah, you could have gone
Into like
into
a
drive rush.
Rentatsu, heavy
Yeah,
DP.
or you can do crouching medium kick run DP, right? So
Oh, yes.
that's the one that I use, right? So if you look at the
Okay.
damage, right? So just to show what it looks like. Oop. Oh man, I'm bad. Oh yeah, it's like that, right? So this should be a punish counter. Anyway, apparently I'm terrible at playing this game.
No worries. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen it before.
something like that.
It
It's
works
like
at the most max
2700.
range.
Yeah, so at
Yeah.
max range, it'll be crouching medium kick is what you want to use. Crouching medium punch if it's a little bit closer, but I typically use crouching medium kick
Mm,
because it's more consistent, right? It's a little less
yeah.
damage,
Sure.
but it's more consistent, right? And it's your meterless option. If you want to go
Okay.
meter, right, you can cancel this in the drive rush, or you can cancel the crouching medium kick in the drive rush as well, right? So both of those are pretty good options.
Yes.
Here, obviously, maybe it doesn't make sense because you're gonna burn out if you do that, so or be very
Yep.
close if you drive rush. So meterless damage here is totally fine. The big reason why you would want to go into run DP is because one is the corner carry is a little better, and two, the Oki
Yep.
situation is also a little bit better, right? So here you're like heavy Genrai follow up will send you like 3/4 screen, right? Run DP will leave
Oh
you a little bit
yeah.
closer, right? So
Yeah, I think it's trash. And if I were to go back, I would either do Run DP or personally, I would have rather gone for Run Tatsu. I've been trying to work a lot on all the routes that stem from that. Like you can go high, low, throw,
yeah. So
shimmy.
yeah, with Run Tatsu in that situation, since I'll be grounded, I think you're gonna be +3 at the end of that. So you do have a +3 strike throw
Oh,
mix.
different. Yeah,
But if
yeah,
you
different
if you
than
get into
the
the
normal.
yeah if you get into the aerial tatsu or the 3-hit tatsu, that's the one that's plus
Hmm.
42, which is a knockdown, right? That's the one that or
Okay.
43, sorry. That's the one that see the whiff jab run overhead and the two dash, all the oki that comes from that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but from the stand heavy punch though, punish counter if you did that, and if you converted or confirm that into a run tatsu, again that'd be a grounded tatsu. So it would be
Okay.
you'd be
Yeah.
at
+3. They're standing
+3.
up,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. It's a +3 strike throw mix, right? So it's a fine,
still good.
still good, right? It's not as you don't have as many layers setups around that like you could with Run Tatsu, and
Hmm.
the corner carry isn't as good. But it's an option, right? So yeah, again, I
Okay.
think that in this situation, if you were just buffering the if you're just buffering the Jinrai there, I think that's totally fine too,
Hmm.
right? There's no you get some damage here. That's still 2200, right? It's 20%. It's totally fine, right?
Yeah.
So one sec here. I think I don't
I
have
went for
the
the shimmy without already having a plan of what to do next. So obviously, I should, expect the shimmy to potentially land and get ready to maybe buffer behind. This was a reaction. I don't think I buffered the Jinrai until after I saw the red.
yeah,
So
yeah. So it's something I talk about is when you're pressing buttons, you kind of want to have some intention behind it, right? So like if I'm gonna
yeah,
press a stand heavy punch, I should be ready to confirm into something, right? And you confirm into
yeah,
something, which is totally fine. Again, I'm not gonna hate like that right there. That's totally fine. Do you leave like 5% of damage on the table? Sure. Maybe the oak situation is a little
and
better, but
follow a Boki more importantly,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But it's totally fine, right? I mean, you won a neutral interaction. You gained some screen space, right? You pushed me forward toward
Hmm.
the corner, right? So all in all, still a win. Could it have been more optimized? Maybe, but it's you take what you get, right? Like if you got that
Yeah,
and it was a clean
exactly.
combo and you got the knockdown, it's totally fine, right? It's one of those things where you play multiple characters, right? So sometimes it takes a little bit to really nail down those routes and stuff. So the fact that you even did
Yep.
this is totally fine, right? So I don't hate that at all. Could it be better? Sure, but I'm not gonna be mad about that interaction, right?
Okay.
So good whiff punish there.
I think there I could have gone into. I haven't done the run cancel stuff yet, but at the very least, instead of 2 LP after the drive rush cancel,
It's
maybe like a 2 MP or
Yeah,
five
it's
MP
it's
for
a
less
crouch heavy
scaling.
punch actually. So normally
Yeah,
here,
crouch having punch, run
run stop, yeah,
cancel into
yeah. This would
uh
go here,
2 LP.
yeah, and then
Yep.
you'd go into you target combo, or in this case because the corner is pretty close, you can go into like a crouching medium punch run DP, right? So a couple options here. A lot of
Mm,
it does stem from the crouching heavy punch though. So if we look at
yep.
this, right? Let's see if I can actually do a combo today.
I was practicing it earlier today for the first time, like the
Yeah.
run cancel like that.
Hmm.
It's not as hard as I thought, but it's definitely going to take some time.
Yeah, it's
And
not
maybe one of my,
yeah, something like that, right? So
yep, yeah,
right.
I like that one because then it's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Not meterless in this case, but yeah, I think
It's
I landed on you once.
Yeah, that'd be the max. I think max damage for the most part, right? Crouch medium punch into the light tatsu. For the most
Yep.
part, what most Kens will do the run tatsu like you did. In the corner here, though, another option is run DP, right? So
Mm.
something like this, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
this is a pretty good Oki situation, right? So from here, you can do a forward dash. Since I'm cornered, right? So
Okay.
you can do a forward dash and
Yep.
you'll be +6, right?
Okay, +6. What
Yeah,
I've been
from
doing
there.
is off a run DP or heavy DP in corner, I will whiff standing light punch, and then it's a meaty auto time standing heavy punch, and then I'm buffering like heavy Jin right behind and try to go for the Jinrai loops if that lands.
Hmm.
That's something new I've been working on recently, but um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
I
there's
think
a lot of
double dash
options
too. I'd be
from
+6.
yeah, a lot of options from here. There's a guide I can send you after this that goes over a lot of the common setups based off knockdowns and stuff. What you did here is totally fine, I think. So you did a whiff jab into a run, right? And this should leave you +5, I believe, right? So from here,
Yep,
right, whiff jab, run cancel,
yep,
right, and this should leave you
yep.
+5, right? So
Yes.
yeah, right. So it looks like you're actually +1 here, but it's okay. Doesn't matter, right?
I think I
Maybe
messed up the
yeah, it
timing.
might have
Yeah.
not have been first frame perfect, but it's okay. You're still plus, and you still hit, right? So this hit, right? Because I
Yep.
went for a button. Oh, I tried to I tried to reversal, it didn't come out, right? So,
Oh, okay,
but it
okay.
worked
I
out. So, I
see now.
mean, you can see me trying to reversal here. It doesn't come out for whatever reason, but it's
Yep.
totally fine, right? So you hit me, right? Confirm
Two
into
hit
a good
confirm
combo
there
there.
into the
Yep,
max meterless. Yep.
yep. So here, right? Let's talk about this situation now. So one
Yep.
of the
And
things you
that's where
wanted to talk about
where I
is
get
Oki, right?
lost.
Yeah. So you landed a hit here, right? There is a
Yep.
setup. There are setups you can take from here, but you don't have to necessarily do them, right? But you got it. Like if you consider the situation that we're in now, right? So there's the hit, right?
Yep.
Second hit, right?
Yep. So I've hit twice now, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking,
Oh, he's
okay,
gonna reversal,
let me
right?
just
Even though I tried to reversal the previous
maybe.
interaction, but
I mean, I don't
yeah,
know that, right? So I'm like,
yeah.
maybe he will, maybe he won't. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to fully let off the gas, but what I tried to do was walk back, crouch, and do a delayed 2MP. It
Mm-hmm.
might have come out too soon for it to be considered delayed, but that was the intention there.
Mm-hmm.
But then
So
after that, when it got blocked, I didn't know what
yeah,
to
yeah.
do.
So if you're gonna do a delay button like that, typically you want to use something like a jab, right? So crouching medium punch is
Okay.
like 6 frames, so there's already kind of a delay already, right? So you want to typically
Yeah.
use a jab, mostly because the 3 or 4 frame delay that you want for a delay jab, if you do the delay jab, it'll come out 8 frames after, right? And that 8 frames will stop a delay button or a delayed tech, right? If you do it that timing. But 12 frames might be a little too late, right? So you may actually get hit if you do it in that late, right? Because the idea is you want to time it such that it's their startup, right? But if you do a 6 frame move
Uh,
after a 5 frame delay, you may get hit. You may get hit out of your startup, is what I'm trying to say.
yep.
So
That explains a
yeah,
lot,
if you
actually.
are gonna use a crouching medium punch, then you don't have to delay it as much. You can just kind of just do it, right? You can do it
Right away,
meaty, or you can
basically.
do it right away on wake up, right? So like, you would press it. Yeah, so you didn't really delay it. So this is actually fine, right? So if
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
done a delay button or anything like that, because you actually hit meaty, right? So
Ah,
so yeah, you didn't really delay it there. So there's no built-in delay necessarily because you pressed it while I
yep.
was still recovering, right? So this is totally fine actually, right? It's still gonna be 0 because it hits at the first frame here, but this is
Mhm.
fine, right? So what ends up happening is you press it, we're both 0, and then
Yep.
I press my button after, right? And it whiffs,
Wow, look how close that
right?
is.
So yeah, because what ended up happening was you were actually spaced out a little bit on the crouching medium punch here. So you backed up and you
Yep.
pressed, right? So if
And
you
then
were
further away, yeah.
yeah, if you were standing here or here, right? The slide back would not have, like, the pushback wouldn't have been as much, or it would have been the same, but you would have been closer, right? So this
Yep,
would have
yep, yep,
tagged
yep.
this. Not, I don't know if it would have tagged you because you were. It looks like you might have been blocking here, but it would have at least hit, right? Like I would have canceling drivers here,
You have meter, yeah,
yeah, and
yep.
then I would put you in a mix up, right? So it whiffs, so it's
Yep.
fine. Looks like you're trying to press here, and I preempt you, right? So it's
Yep.
fine. So something I'll talk about here, because you said you were kind of lost after this, right? Right.
Yeah, and so real quick, what I do here typically, let's say, sometimes I will autopilot that into medium Jinrai and go for layers there. Sometimes though, what I'll do is like seeing this now, what I would have done next time is 2 MP into like a wish punish 5 HP,
Hmm.
and it would have caught back any button in retaliation. But so maybe not. Basically, for me, I can memorize all these O keys to set up. Okay, I do this, and here's all the options and possibilities that stem from that. But
Hmm.
where I get lost is, let's just say in general, you're in the corner, and then I'm like slightly like where I am now.
Hmm.
How do I exert pressure on you without letting you jump out of the corner,
Hmm.
but still mixing up my options, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So yeah,
yeah,
there's two parts to that. One is like you said, knowing the setups, right? So understanding the frame data behind the setups you're doing, how plus and minus you actually are, that type of thing, pushback and spacing. So like wish punishing and that type of thing. You know, space traps. The official name is space traps,
yeah,
but come on,
yeah,
switch punish, right? Understanding that
yep,
part. The other half is what is playing the player, right? So you have
yep,
to have an idea of what I like to do on defense or what options I tend to favor or pick, right? So it's
mm,
typically a little difficult to do that right away because I don't think we played each other before, right? At least not our Kens
yeah,
anyway.
correct.
So it's difficult to ascertain exactly what you can do to beat me right away, right? So it's still a little early, in my opinion, for and as far as the set goes, right? It's still early in the set to
Yep,
determine like what are the better options to use against me, Juzzy the player, right? And
yep,
the same thing is going through my head too, right? Like how do I open this guy up? How do I beat them in neutral? What buttons I like to press, all that. Like that player aspect, it becomes way more important at a higher level because in master and above, everyone's setups are good, right? Even in diamond, right? Like high platinum,
yep,
low diamond, everyone has great setups, right? Everyone has good
yep,
offense, meaning they can run. If you don't do anything, like if I blocked this whole time, I would lose, right? Like I have to guess every once
yep,
in a while. I have to do something. Everyone's offenses are so good now, right? So, but a lot of it, if you're autopiloting through it, right? A better player will be able to kind of dissect what you're trying to do and then, apply the correct counter to it, right? So we'll go through this a
yep.
little more. So we'll see. So I think right now in this situation right here, this was 100% the correct move, right? So backing up a little bit, giving me some space to work with, right, to try to get me to press buttons, and then you try to beat me in
Mhm.
neutral, right? Because you don't know if I'm gonna DP or not, right? You don't know if I'm gonna reversal,
Correct.
right? Because I have a ton of meter,
If you're gonna jump,
yeah, or jump, or literally anything, right? So trying to get a sense of how I'm playing in the corner is the correct thing to do here. You just have to add
okay,
that, download that information, if you will, and add that to your information throughout the set, right, to understand exactly what's
yeah,
happening, right? Because again, if you autopilot here, and it'll probably work against most players at like Diamond 2, Diamond 3, right? Because Ken's kind of flowchart is pretty strong, right? A lot of it's real. You can
yeah,
press a lot of
beginner
buttons and
eye,
all that,
yeah,
and it's difficult to guess against that stuff. But once you start getting into like higher levels and stuff, players will be able to dissect your offense, right, and then come up with the correct solution against it, right, or the correct counter for what you're trying to apply. So anyway, we'll go
correct,
through the
yep.
rest of this and let's see what ends up happening here. So land a couple hits here, no big deal. All right, so
And real
here's the
quick there, that
first.
little
Yep.
interaction,
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that, but I'm trying to drive rush more in neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the only times I do it is when we're a mile apart and it's so telegraphed and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there, like when I watched that back, like I had no idea that drive rush was coming, right? And I get it on paper, but it's like, how do I find more opportunities to throw it in here? And even if
Mm-hmm.
they block it, I'm plus in their face and now they have to guess.
Yeah. So the way that I apply drive rush for the most part is after you block something, right? Or if
Uh-huh.
a situation like this where the spacing kind of allows me to do this, right? So this is actually a little too close, to be honest with you, for me to drive rush, right? Because if you were paying
Mm,
attention to that, right, you would be able to check here, right? So you have
maybe with a standing light punch in this
standing light
case.
punch or standing light kick, probably crouching medium punch, maybe if you were active the
Yeah.
drive rush, right? But it's a
Yeah.
little too close, honestly, for me to do that.
Mm,
But I get away with it because you weren't ready for the drive rush, right? Because who drive rushes
yep.
after a stand heavy kick block, right? Well, he's -5. Why would he do anything, right? His turn is over, right? But
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
the spacing that's here though,
Mm,
right? Like, well, I hit you, so it's like +1 or whatever. But like, there's nothing you can really press here that would necessarily reach me in time to stop this, right? If you were not ready for it. So if you press like, it's like right here, right? Like what button from Ken would reach? Probably stand heavy kick, right? That's kind of the only button I think that would probably reach me from here in this situation, right? Additionally, you're
yeah, I
-1,
don't think standing
right?
heavy
You guys
punch.
got hit, so that's okay. But even if this is on block, right? You're -5 here. Let's say you did block this. There's not a whole lot of buttons you can press to punish me from that, right? So a lot of folks will tend to just block in this situation and continue blocking because they're expecting me to walk forward, right? So I do something here
Yep.
that maybe you weren't expecting, right? So that's the player
Correct.
aspect, right? And I'm kind of testing your reaction too a little bit here, right? Because if you reacted to this, then I stop doing this option, right? Because if you're able to
Mm.
stop this, then I can't do it anymore. I shouldn't be doing it anymore, right? Because you're ready for it. But since I test here and you block, right? My +3 situation here. So like, okay, right? I can kind of get away with some closer drive rushes potentially. Let me go into a safe string here, right? So I have +3 here, and I walk
Mm.
up for a throw, right? I'm actually a little bit too far. So you can see I actually have to walk up, right? So this wasn't
Yep.
a real tick throw, right? So when
Oh,
I
I see. Yep.
jabbed, so like if you look at how this interaction goes, right? And the reason I'm kind of spending time here is because you're talking about how do I generate these situations for myself, right?
Yes.
Right here, I'm holding the jab button down because I want this to come out as soon as possible, right? Typically,
Mm.
when you're going for like a jab, a drive rush jab tick throw, you would want to wait until you're a little bit closer, right? Because you want this jab to hit point blank, right? But you can see there's a little bit of
Yep. So
space
you
in
can
between.
throw.
Yeah, because the +3 now that's real, right? That's a real tick throw, right? Like they have to guess
Yep.
strike throw, right? But here, like when I push this, the reason I'm pushing this now is so that I force you to block as soon as I can, right? Because if I waited a little bit, that might give you just enough time to get a button out, right? Like maybe those
Yep.
2 or 3 frames wasn't like, let's say you pressed here somewhere or here somewhere, those 2 or 3 frames could be the difference between this being blocked or me getting checked, right? So that's why I want that to
Mm.
come out. Now here, right, in this situation here, 9 times out of 10, most people will just kind of be passive, right? It's hard
Yep.
to think about, oh, this jab is not close enough. I can jab here or whatever, right? I can make a defensive option here, choose a defensive option here. Instead, you block, which is fine, right? And you take the throw, right?
Yep.
I just want to let you know that that situation right there, because of the space I was at, forced an early jab to come out that allowed this spacing to be that would have stopped anything you did if it was pressed a little bit late. And then I had to force the situation by walking up, right? So it wasn't necessarily real. So your defensive option there,
It
you
was a
could have
trade
jabbed.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like in game, that's very difficult to ascertain, right? Like, oh crap, all the stuff that I just talked about, right? How do you determine that in the 2 frames that this happened, right? So
Yep.
the way you normally do it though is if you see it a second time or a third time, that's when you go, oh, okay, I can react to that now. Anyway, you take the throw here, which is totally fine, right? I think you recognize that you were minus here, and taking the throw is okay. Because if I shimmied you here, that's gonna suck, right? So
Yeah, I didn't want to shimmy, especially mid screen. I'll take a throw. It's if I did a proper backdash there, then I knew you. And here, that's what I typically do after a throw. So I was trying to get the timing down for the parry, but couldn't quite get it. But yeah, I have no problem taking a throw mid screen.
yeah, so again, the back roll here probably would have been correct, but it didn't come out for whatever reason. No
Yep.
big deal, right? And then you went for a parry here, which is again fine, right? If a perfect parry would have been great, but parrying against the button here is totally fine. And then I throw you again, right? Same deal though.
Yeah.
This is a +2 situation,
Ah.
so because it was kind of close, right? If you look at
Yep.
where it actually is, right? So again, I had to walk
Yep.
up a little bit, right?
I saw that.
To
Yeah.
make sure, right? So I probably could have thrown you from right there, but I did a walk up anyway because you were a little bit passive the last time this happened. So I just went, okay, we'll just throw you
Yeah.
again, right? So
Ah.
again,
Yeah.
it's just the buildup of the last sequence that happened, right? So did drive rush, did
Yep.
jab, took the throw. More than likely they'll do it again. They went for parry, they didn't get it. They probably know they're minus at this point, so they're probably not going to
Yep.
press. So I'm going to go in for another throw, right? So
Mm.
you take the throw here again, and then no back roll, that's okay. And then here is where I think, let's see, gag me back, right? Go for the you go for the safe jump and it misses, which is funny.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and then yeah. So here, right, went for the parry, but for some reason that didn't quite come out. It's
I
just
think I
totally
hit
fine.
it too early. I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, it's fine, right? I mean, this might have gotten perfect parried had it been the right timing.
Yeah.
It
Uh-huh.
wasn't, and this worked out, right? So you're able to grab me. But anyway, I think that's fine, right? Street Fighter 6 happens, right? So I get thrown here. All right.
So there, my instinct said, "Hey, go for standing heavy punch," but then I was like, "No, I think I don't know if I already did that, or I'm like, let me try to switch it up on him." So I went for a throw, and then of course it got tacked. Although maybe you're going delay tack, so it would have been.
Yeah. So pretty typical here, right? Because I'm gonna die to a throw, right?
At this point,
at this
yeah.
point,
So
right?
you
So
have to
I'm gonna
tech.
die to a throw, right? So I have to tech, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Against the drive rush like that, right? Oh, okay. From here, right? Right. So I'm just delay teching because you're drive rushing at me, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm gonna die if I can't take a throw here. So my option, like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my head, I'm
Yeah.
thinking like I have to delay tech here. It's very difficult to shimmy from that situation, right? Like it's hard to
Yeah.
from that spacing.
Maybe if I did a drive rush 2 LP and then walk back, then you'd have to think about what to do from like after a block 2 LP. But
Yeah. So you could have went for like a jab and then strike and then a tick throw setup, and then I'd have to guess there. Right? I could reversal or I have to do
just
something.
empty throw.
Yeah, or you could just throw, right? Or whatever the case may have been. But if you went for that, I would have delay teched the rest of those hits, right? So if you went for a throw again, I
Yeah.
would have teched it there. I would have lost a shimmy, but I'm gonna lose a shimmy anyway, right? So one of those things where you just kind of accept your fate here, pick a defensive option, and just hope for the
Yeah.
best, right? So you did go for
But it
driver's
makes me
throw.
see like
Yeah.
I didn't need because my plan A was like maybe drive rush 5 HP, and I was like, oh, let me go for throw here. I
Mm-hmm.
should have just gone for a drive rush 2 LP, and then I'm still plus, and I can do strike throw or shimmy now. Whereas what I did, I couldn't do a shimmy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So I mean, the thing that you would beat though, I think, and I have to look at the frame data again, but potentially there, if I reversal in that situation, you might have been able to block. I'm not sure if you were still in drive rush at that point. It might have been too close.
uh,
But if you were
uh
just trying to mix me up, right? And just if you saw me like waking up, if I woke up with like a button or something, that probably would have counter
yep.
hit me actually. So one sec, sorry, I got booted from CFN.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll get back into it here. But yeah, that situation there, I think it would. The option you chose was fine because it would win the game if you were right, right? And if you were wrong and I tech, like at worst, delay tech back to neutral, right? Is it
Yep.
like game ending necessarily? No, but let's take a look here, right? So I think I teched your throw already here. Okay, we're back. Tech, right? All right, so here, something
Oh
interesting that
yeah.
happens. And I was saying this on stream, is that a lot of people tend to back up right after pressure, right? So you block
Yeah.
something, right? And then I don't
And
even delay all that much, to be honest. Like, I don't delay at all, actually. I just go for it, right?
yep.
But because of the built-in delay from the actual startup of the move, it tends to line up when people want to back up, right? And this is what tags you, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
So,
And I'm cringing right now because I know this is like my biggest weakness on defense. It isn't like spamming tech or anything. It's walking back as soon as like they hit me because my instinct is like I got to get away from this,
yeah,
and it opens up the toes. And then Kens, especially, they see it, they got it, and you hit it on me like so many times during this set. I'm
yeah.
like, oh, he knows I'm walking back, but. It's like an autopilot that I can't break.
Yeah,
So
it's
obviously, like with
tough.
awareness, I can break it.
Yeah,
But
it's tough. It's just like one of those things where, at Diamond, I think, and even in Lower Master, you're probably not getting punished for it, right? Like a lot of times when that situation comes up, 9 times out of 10, I'm willing to bet that in ranked right now, you just back up and it's fine, right? Like people,
uh,
for whatever reason, don't want to press
right
there,
now I'm 10, yes. When I
right?
got
And
towards the
Diamond
end,
too. Yeah.
when I was close to masters, then yeah, I started getting punished, and I'm like, okay, this I need to fix this if I want to keep climbing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
In
it's still a
Master,
work
I
in
think you'll
progress,
see it
but
more because people are willing to press there. But in Diamond right now, you're probably not getting punished for it too much, right? So, anyway, that's something to keep in mind. Let's see the rest of the set, how often that kind of comes up. And you said it's something you're trying to break, so you're aware of it, so it's
yep.
totally fine. So this is a setup here. This is an auto
I
time.
didn't
This is
know
a
that was a setup
yeah.
actually.
This is a
I
meaty
think I
low.
learned of
Yeah,
it recently, but I haven't done it myself.
yeah. It's a meaty low, right? So it catches you trying to block because it looks like it's gonna be an overhead, right? So
Yep.
you get hit by that, right? You know, I dropped it, right? But this is a normally this
Yep.
is +5, right? So I should be able to get a target combo into whatever from here, right? So instead,
And sorry,
because
what
I
was
drop
that
it,
setup again? It was off of what, and then what did he do?
yeah. So off of
Oh,
the run
Rentatsu.
Tatsu, immediately heavy Jinrai. So
Yep.
the reason it what missed actually is because I was a frame late. So right, heavy Jinrai, low Jinrai
Ah.
will be +5 if it hits, which it actually was. But it wasn't quite as meaty as it normally would be. So, meaning
Ah.
like I if I had been more tight here, I guess so you can actually see I think it's 4 here.
Yep.
Let's see.
That's 4. No.
Yeah.
Yep.
+5. What did I do? Did I just? Okay, actually I take it back. So it was meaty enough, sufficiently meaty, right? It was totally fine. It's just I missed my stand heavy punch by 2 frames, right? So anyway, you would get stand medium punch there. Sorry, stand medium punch is what I missed. So you get stand
Yep,
medium
yep,
punch
yep.
here, right? So anyway, I recognize this block on block, right? So I just cancel into Jinrai to burn you out, right?
Yep.
Like that's I think it's
Yep,
pretty
yep,
standard,
yep.
right? Jump out. Your button was the jump heavy punch, which doesn't cross up, I think. So
Should I be going for like a jumping light kick
light
here?
kick or medium kick, one or the other. Jumping medium kick would be the
Okay.
other cross up button. It would have hit me had you done that instead, right? Unfortunately, you did
Oh,
the jump heavy punch to the hitbox for this is actually over here, right? So anyway, you get thrown out of that.
yeah. Actually, it's real quick. It's funny on that because like I try to play like an honest game style, and so I'm like, I
Hmm.
never really think about jumps and all the different moves and stuff. But I
Hmm.
guess you calling this out, it's like, okay, if I'm trying to jump out, I'm gonna land on the other side, so I shouldn't go for a jumping heavy punch. I should go for like something that would cross up because I'll be on the other side and it might even hit him. And then I could even get a combo and then now they're in the mix.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I don't DP that, like if I don't cross cut and you land the crouching or sorry the jump medium kick, the cross up on block even, you get to press buttons now, right? Like you get to apply pressure.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what ends up happening here though is you get back thrown, right?
Yep.
Right. Oop. So there's a tick throw there that is difficult to deal with because you're in burnout. So that's like +5 or whatever, or +7 or something stupid, right? So difficult to
Yep.
deal with
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And then he tried to go for the super here, I think, is what this was, right?
Yeah.
So
Level one.
didn't come out, and then I missed my punish here, but you weren't ready, and it just get thrown, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit of spaghetti is totally fine. I think had you supered, I was kind of backing up already, right? So you might have ended up losing there. You had a chance to
Yep.
come back on the whiffed punish, but didn't quite happen. But it's okay, right? Like all things said and done, it probably would have been the same result had the super gone off, right? So no big deal.
Yep.
So I open with a jump here. Open the driver Chevy. All right, so here, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I need to do, I was looking for your video earlier on how to beat Jinrai, but I think the default is just EXDP, right? So I need to
Mm-hmm.
get in a habit of that being my default instead of going for parry on the follow up. Because if they don't follow up, they're really negative, but they could just walk up through if I went for parry. So
Mm-hmm.
just changing my defensive option against Jinrai to be EXDP.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because EXTP will beat it clean, totally fine, right? You could also do if you preempt it, like you see me doing a lot of Jinra, you can use DI potentially, but EXTP would be the correct.
Mm.
Like if you don't want to guess, right? You want to take this mix
Yeah.
up, just EXTP. You have a meter to do it. It's early in the round, right? And this is gonna punish counter me, right?
Yep.
But parry is an okay option if you see me go for the low a lot, or I haven't done it in a while. Like it's a read, right? You're trying to read the
Yeah.
low, right? So
Yep. Yeah, I
ultimately, you
was.
end up getting punished for it. Such is life, I think. Application of Jin right here, something you had talked about for Ken, and a lot of it ends up being exactly this type of situation, right? You land a crouching medium kick in neutral that's spaced
Hmm.
properly, right? Because even if you didn't parry and you block here, because of the spacing here, the low will push you out a little bit further. So even though I'm -5, it can be very difficult for you to punish, even with stand light kick, right? Even with the good range there.
Correct.
So that's
Yep.
something that you want to. That's something as Ken you want to try to apply there, because this situation that I'm taking advantage of here is something now that you're gonna think about the rest of the set, right? Oh, he landed a Jinrai.
Yep.
What's he gonna do, right? And then you have to
Yep.
think, right? And then as soon as you start thinking, it's very difficult to do anything, right? So get punish counter here, no big deal. So I dash up and I get beat by reversal, right? So good reversal timing there, I think. I wasn't expecting that at all. Totally fine to get out of the situation. You know,
I
good.
just saw what was coming. I was already low on bar, and
Hmm.
I was getting close to the corner, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, selecting that option is totally fine given the meter situation and all that. I've been applying meter pressure for the last couple of times. I haven't really shimmied you at all, right? So I
Yep.
think it's totally fine, right? All right, so right there, right? What happened?
There
So
again, the toes.
same thing, right?
Number two.
So
Yeah.
get hit or you block something, right? Block something in max range. I walk up a little bit,
Negative.
right? A little bit of delay, enough time for you to consider walking back, and you get tagged, right? So Same idea, right? Delay crouching medium kick is kind of something that I use a lot, right? So a lot of players back up after something like that. You mentioned it, you know it, so talk about that, right? So that's the combo right there, the
Yeah.
crouching heavy punch, right?
Yeah.
Run
Into run
cancel.
cancel, target combo, then your ender of
Yep.
choice. Here,
So
I
this
think you
is
went for the high.
yep. So the same Oki that you were applying there. I actually missed it a little bit here, so this isn't as meaty as it should be, but it's okay because you
Mm.
block, so it doesn't matter, right? So I'm minus here. You don't elect to press, so I press, right? So
Yep.
no big deal there.
Would you
So
consider that a delayed button?
kinda. Let's take a look. Was that delayed? I don't think it was super delayed. So here, right? So it wouldn't be a delayed button because we're both in neutral here, right? So like if you look at
Okay.
this, the frame meter. So you're actually, so we're both in neutral now, right? So you can see that there's no more recovery
Yeah,
from
I
either
see.
of us at this point, right? So we both kind of crouch for a few frames, and then the frame rate restarts because I press here, right? So this is actually not really a delay button necessarily. This is just we're both in neutral, we're very close to each other, and I don't think you're pressing, so I'm gonna press my jab, right? Um, you know,
What could I have done here? Like sometimes I get into these showdowns and then I'll wait and then I'll like hit a jab and then maybe into 2 MP, assuming the jab might counter hit and go from there.
that
But
that
otherwise,
was that was my thought
yeah.
actually. So I'm trying to see
Okay, okay.
if I'm gonna counter hit confirm into a crouching medium punch, right?
Yep.
So you could do the same thing, right? Because we're both in neutral here. In fact, you have advantage, right? So if you look at the frame meter, right, you're +3 in this situation right here, right? So I'm blocking,
Uh,
expecting you to press, actually, right? So normally what people would do here is you'd press, maybe a jab or something or crouching medium punch. You can press here because you're +3, right? So if I tried to jab you from here, you would counter hit me there, right? So from there, you can counter hit me into stand like kick DP, right? If you counter hit confirm the crouching medium punch. So you could press crouching medium punch here, right? And a big reason you could do that, or that would work, again, since you're +3 here, right? From right here, right? You press
yep.
crouching medium punch, I block, right? I mean, I know I'm not minus enough for it to be punished, right? But the pushback will push me back a little bit further, right? So you get that space back.
Mm.
So
I
from
didn't think of it like
there,
that as
yeah,
well, the
from
space.
from there, right? You because you can't always hit me out of this, right? Like in a defensive situation, you can't always hit me out of it, right? So what you can
Yep.
try to do is regain some of that space back, right? So that's why this is important when you are, +1, +2, +3, to be willing to press a button that would still stuff a 4 frame but give you some space back, right? Because if you press here, again, like I'll say, the pushback will probably put you here. And we saw that in the last round, right? When you press the crouching medium
Yeah.
punch, the pushback was far enough where my crouching medium kick whiffed, right? It's a little
Yep.
different, I think, because you're applying it to me as opposed to the other way around. But the space you gain back would be what you're looking for in the corner, right? That's really where corner defense comes into play, right? What you're trying to do is
Mm.
get your space back, right? Because you can't adjust space anymore. You can't dictate what buttons you want to press. You have to press lights here, otherwise you get counter hit, right? If you go for a heavy, it's gonna get
Yeah.
stuffed, right? You go for a medium, even it's probably gonna get stuffed at this range, right? And you can't adjust
Yeah,
anymore.
it's and they get stuffed a lot. Yes, I never know what to do on defense when
Mm-hmm.
they're that close. But then again, it's like when I'm on offense, I'm afraid to be that close because like, what if they press?
Yeah, what if they do something, right? And hopefully we'll see more of how I'm applying the pressure to you to get an idea of what might make sense, right?
Uh-huh.
So here,
Okay.
since you don't press, right? Since you didn't elect to press, my instinct is that you're waiting for me to try to do something. Maybe I walk up, maybe I move back, whatever. And I just press my jab, and then I go into a crouching medium kick, right? And I'll tell you now that this is totally fake, right? So
Yep.
jab, right? You can see this huge gap here, right? But it's very difficult to press something against a jab at that range in this situation, right? So I'm taking advantage
Yeah,
of
the
your
spacing,
passiveness.
right?
Yeah, because like you want to be passive here, right? You don't want to get frame trapped into a knockdown, into more oki,
Yep.
right? You're trying to stay on your feet. You're trying to push me out of the corner, right? So this is what I'm taking advantage of is your passives here, right? So you're not pressing anything, so I'm gonna get a little greedy and press a bigger button, and then do Jinrai, right?
Ah.
So something that I haven't brought up yet, but something that I was paying attention to is this up here, right? The
Yeah.
meter. So if you look at the situation where I landed that hit, you only had 1 bar left. So in my head, what I'm thinking is I'm going to go for Oki, and if it doesn't work out, I'm going to try to burn him out, right? So that's my game plan going into the corner, right? So,
Yep.
you gain some of it back here, right? And then you take a block, right? Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for Jinrai. You go
It
for
is,
parry.
yeah.
But the idea was I'm trying to burn you out now, right? But if you look at the
Yes, yeah.
spacing, right, from here, oh, right, the parry doesn't move me back as much, so you might be able to clip me with a sound light kick. It's difficult to know for sure. But
Yeah.
basically, this is more or less safe for me, right? So now I can just block. My turn is done. I'll wait for you to do something, right? And you do that, right? And burn out, right?
Yeah, and
So
it was a desperation play at this point.
mhm.
Although what I should have done is not go for the shimmy. I should have gone back throw.
Yeah, you could have went for a throw there. I'll say that the crouching medium kick drive rush out is pretty aggressive, right? As an option,
Yeah,
you could
yeah,
have,
okay.
and the reason again is because you burn out for it, right? So it's
Yeah.
difficult to justify burning out to get out of the corner, because if you
It's not
don't,
gonna kill either,
yeah,
yeah.
and if you don't kill me, if you get a kill, obviously it's fine, but if you don't
Yeah.
get out of the corner from this situation, now you're burned out in more or less the same situation, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Even worse then, right? I guess I just didn't know what my other options are. Maybe just like slowly walk out and take the space with what I have.
yeah, that's typically what I do, right? And you
Okay.
saw me do that in the previous round, where
Yeah.
once you kind of backed off, I didn't really get too aggressive. I just walked forward, got into a good space to press stand heavy kick, right, or a good space to drive rush at, right. So that's what
Yeah.
I did, right, and it's a lot lower risk overall, but it does rely on you to be able to kind of play the neutral game. Like you have to be able to play that, right. Because you can go for the drive rush here, right? It totally tags me walking back, or it tags me doing something else, right? But again, it's hard to burn out in this situation, right? I think ultimately this is what ends
Yep.
up causing. Well, we'll see what happens the rest of the round, but this is a very tough situation to navigate, right? Basically, full health on well, full health on my side. Maybe one or two hits on your side, right? So you still have over 50%, so that's totally fine. Burned out, but I have 4 bars, right? So I have a huge meter advantage. We both have super, but 2 hits from me, like one conversion and then
Yep.
2 conversions will kill you from me, right?
Yep.
If I hit once meterless and then a full cash out, but you need 3, right? Maybe even 4 because you don't have meter anymore, right? You can't extend
Yeah,
combos
with
anymore, right?
no meter, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a very difficult situation to navigate from here, right? So let's see what ends up happening, right? So you go for a drive rush jab, right? You go for shimmy, and I went for an immediate kind of button here, right? Because I saw that
Yep.
this was a
And I
little
saw
bit
that
too
a
far.
few times.
Yeah.
I don't think I was punishing it. So I needed to like if I see that frame trapping here would have been the answer.
Probably. Going for another button
Yeah.
here probably is correct. The issue is that it's difficult for you to continue pressing there, right? Because you don't want to
Yeah.
end up 2 minus there. And you were going for, and in your head, you've gone for a shimmy already, right? Like you've committed to
Yeah.
shimmying me there, right? And that's totally fine. Like
Yeah.
you've committed to an offensive option. It doesn't quite work out. That's okay, right? The important thing is that
Okay.
you picked an offensive option and went for it, right? So you just happened to lose to my jab, mostly because you were a little too far away with the crouching light punch, right? So again, it's not a
Yep.
huge deal. Like you went for shimmy there. If I had gone for a delay tech here, you would have beaten me, right? So, and then from here, I'm just kind of bullying you with Jinrai, right? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Catching you as you block back, right? You're getting hit, and that sucks, right? You're like, screw this, I want out, so I'm gonna call back, right? And then you get hit with the tech, you delay tech
Yeah. At
here,
this
right?
point.
Right, and then I just cash out or super here, right? So you saw that there was basically two
Yeah.
interactions, and I still had some damage on the table, right? So the burnout
Correct.
ultimately, like even though you were making defensive decisions in the corner, it was the burnout that got you, right? Because there was no way for you to really fight your way out of the corner from there, right? You'd have to have
Yep.
supered to get out of there, and you saw I shimmied, right? So in that last interaction, that shimmy was going to beat both your delay tech and your super, right? So you kind of had to be passive. You don't want to do that necessarily because you're burned out, right? So,
Yeah.
but
Just
yeah,
the DI is gonna come. The fireball drive rush
exactly
into
right.
DI.
Like
And,
it's like, oh,
yeah.
maybe he backs off, gives me space, but what can I do? I can't jump. I can't drive rush to close space. I have to try to walk and press a button, but I'm cornered, so I don't have control over where the space is, right? So that
Yeah.
stuff is very difficult to navigate and burn out, right? And you can see how players take advantage of that, right? So I'm taking advantage of the extra plus frames I'm getting, and your kind of overall passiveness, right? Which you have to be because you're burned out, right? So
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of opportunity because you're going to be minus a lot, right? So yeah, I think besides the burnout situation, which I think you kind of had an idea there, the corner defense portion really kind of boils down to your ability to retake space from the other player, right? So going for like these bigger, you know, bigger, higher risk moves like drive rushing or like crouching kick drive rush rather, or stuff like that, can be effective if you have a read, right? So if you read I was going to shimmy and you
Okay.
woke up crouching medium kick, that would work fine, right?
Sure.
But or you know, if you had a read on, oh, he's going to go for a throw loop, okay, let me reversal here, right, or something like that. But
Yep.
typically speaking, higher level players won't overextend in that situation, right? They'll get
Yeah.
an Oki situation, they'll see if they win it or not, and regardless, they still have corner positioning. They back up, and then now they get to play neutral with you, but they control all of the space now, right? So it's very difficult to adjust spacing and press buttons in the correct spot, right? Because if I walk into your
Yep.
space, you can't back up anymore. So what do, right? Like, do you press a button? Do you try to block? Like, what happens? And that the indecisiveness and passiveness that comes out of that, because it has to be, that's what you take advantage of on offense, right? So on defense, what you're trying to do is throw off my rhythm, right? So if I give you space, you try to take it back, right? You use your buttons that are kind of longer range or maybe even closer depending on the spacing. They give pushback or something like that effect, right? Even if it's blocked, right? Even if your moves are blocked or whatever, like most of Ken's normals, if you hitting at the ranges that make sense, like the tip ranges, or even some of their like other buttons like crouching medium punch, right, stuff like that, it typically ends up being safe, right? Not necessarily punishable, right? It's still probably gonna be minus because all of Ken's buttons are minus, but
Yep.
you won't necessarily be punished, right? So you get some space back. Now, once you have a little bit of space you can work with, now you can start building back into trying to get back into it, right? So, like, trying to get that space back so that you can adjust spacing against them pushing buttons, right? So you can play neutral again. Because when you can't adjust
Okay.
spacing, it's very difficult to win a neutral interaction, right? Like, which I'm sure you're
Yeah. I
seeing there, right?
never looked at it like that in terms of pushing him back with spacing
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of why the corner is
Yeah, yeah,
why
right.
is it so
Why is it
good?
so good? It's specifically because of that, right? Like you can't adjust space to back up anymore, right? You can't get out of range of things, right? And then, of course, in SO6 is the threat of DI, right? So when you're burned out, right, or even when you're not burned out,
Yeah.
right? Like you're in the corner, DI becomes a thing you have to watch out for now, right? Because it's something that
True.
you could do, right? But in most cases, like at a higher level, 9 times out of 10, the reason you end up losing the corner is because you can no longer adjust space to play neutral correctly, right? Or maybe not correctly is not the right word, but you can't play it as effectively, right? Like
Yep.
they basically hold all the cards, and you just have to kind of hope for the best and try to take advantage of something on a mistake they make, right? So, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because you can't
yeah,
shimmy, you can't whiff punish because like if they know their range of their button, they're gonna walk up and then hit it. There's nowhere to go.
yeah, they can whiff punish you pretty easily because you can't back up. So you either have to not press or press, right? Like you can't just not do anything necessarily. So that's something that gets taken advantage of, right? Is that situation? So, but yeah, I think if you look at those two games that we just played, the first one, I think some of it was you had me, but there was a couple of situations where I think the wrong button was pressed or like there was some missed opportunities. But a lot of it ended
Yep,
up being backing up after pressure, right? So
yep, yep,
getting
yep,
tied with crouching medium kick. And then the second one, I think there were a couple of hits, so I kind of adjusted to how you're playing neutral, landed more hits on you, right? Got you in the
yep.
corner, and then you burned out, right? And then that was like all she wrote from there. I don't think you recovered any more meter from there. I didn't even go for DI, right? Like I just did a shimmy,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then that, right? So again, easy adjustments to make. I think be a little bit better meter management, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But if you look at the flip side of how I was applying pressure to you, is that with Ken in the corner, the way he applies pressure is by controlling the space on the opposite side, right? So you saw like if you think back at how you were feeling mentally when you were in the corner burned out, right? Like the feeling is that you can't, it's suffocating almost, right? You can't press anything because it'll probably get counter hit or whiff punished, right? I can't jump because they'll
Yes.
probably DP me, right? I can't super necessarily here because they'll probably shimmy me, right? So that's how Ken applies pressure in the corner. At least the way I play it, right? I know there's other folks that play different play styles, but the way I play is mostly the pressure is designed around making you feel like you have to make a million decisions and that somehow the
How do
decision
you
you end
how
up
do you
making is wrong.
do that?
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's my take on Ken too, how he does
yeah,
it. But
let's see this game. I think I do it here a little bit more because I kind of had a read on how you were playing. But let's see if we can come see how the sequences go and see if we can talk about the situations that come up. right? So taking advantage of passiveness again.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like you were trying to press something, maybe. Let's see. What happened there? How'd you get hit?
Maybe I didn't delay the
Oh, you were
tech enough.
reversing, huh?
Oh, let's see.
Yeah. You're trying to reversal.
Yeah, I was
Would be
trying to
my
drive
guess.
reversal.
Yeah, or sorry, DP, right? You're trying to EXCP here is what my guess would be on this.
Oh yeah, EXCP.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just
So
messed up the timing.
yeah, all good. I mean, you're going for it. You get hit. That's life. I confirm that into this, right? So
Now you
here,
back up.
yeah. So here you
Yeah.
got hit because you tried to delay tech, right? Let's see. Actually, did you delay tech?
Yeah.
Let's see. So you're getting up. I do the no shimmy shimmy. And it looks like you were trying to delay or tech here, right? Maybe because you thought I was going to walk up, or you're reacting to like me moving or something, right? Get hit,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
right? And then here, well, let's watch the sequence, and then maybe we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, get out of it. So here, what I'm trying to do here is making you guess strike throw over and over and over again, right?
Yep.
Like, and when you think about it at a higher level, what this really means is that you have to guess block or delay tech, really, right? Like when you think about at a higher level what's actually happening here, right? Like you have to block or delay tech. So I'm trying to get you to either start doing start choosing one or the other, right? And I'm forcing the situation by throwing you over and over again, right? I was going for throw,
Yep.
right? Because eventually, you can take the throw as much as you want, but you can run out of life eventually, right? Throw loops are kind of real in this game, so you have to make a decision at some point, right? So I'm trying to get you to start delay teching, basically, right? So, which you actually do here, or no, this is immediate tech, right? So, anyway,
I might have messed up the timing.
yeah. If you had delay tech there, I think you might have actually gotten shimmied, right? If you look at what I was doing, but immediate tech ended up getting you out of the situation, right? So it's totally fine. So here, again, same situation. You block a hit. But if you look at what happened here, right? So Ken's back throw now, right? Losing super far, right? There's no Oki here anymore, right? At least not without meter, and even then it may not necessarily be real, right? So here, what I would do if this was me is I would actually walk forward here, right? I would walk to about here, right? Like put Ken's model out here. And the reason I would do that, and you actually almost get there, but not quite. And the reason I do that is I want to exert pressure on you by walking forward, right? So if you reverse the situation, right, and when you were cornered, like you felt like something was going to happen when I started walking towards you, right? Like you felt like you had to make a decision of some kind. So what that decision ends up being, I have to, like, as the offensive player, you have to kind of suss out and see what they like to do. But as I walk forward here, it's going to elicit a response from you, right, as the cornered player, right? And if I've been paying attention to what had been happening, maybe you like to press a button, maybe you like to be passive, go for delay tech, maybe you like to jump, right? Some option you're going to choose more often than not when I walk into your space, right? My job as the offensive player here now is to ideally figure out what option you're going to do and then punish it, right? So I'm going to walk forward. I know they like to press buttons here. I'm going to walk forward, walk back with punish. I walk forward. They like to back jump. I'm going to continue walking forward in DP, right? I walk forward. They do nothing. I might try to walk up throw, or I might try to shimmy, right? Because you're afraid to press a button, right? And if you've been teching more, then I might go for the shimmy. If you've not been teching me, I go walk up throw, right? But
it's just, I guess, like from here, it feels so. Yes, I get it. Like when I'm on defense, I'm like freaking out. But then when I'm on offense, I'm treating this thing like a lion trapped in a corner, ready to do whatever it needs to do to get out. So like the thought of walking from here all the way up and then throwing seems so absurd, even though it happens to me all the time. So maybe it's just reframing and having a different mindset when I am the one in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way, right? Like as you go up in rank, the tendency of people to take risk goes down, right? The alternative, the correlate to that obviously means that at lower ranks, you don't know when that random guy is going to randomly DP you, right? So there are actually some other ways to get around that, and we could talk about that in a sec. Let's get through the replay, and then we'll see. But I can talk about how to manage some of that risk on offense around that. Yeah. But here, Same
Okay,
deal.
actually,
Back up.
one question for this situation, real quick. So let's say that I think they're going to forward jump. So typically, what I'll do is I'll kind of sit at the right spot and then I'll get ready to DP.
Hmm.
But then what happens is I'm waiting for a jump, and then if they don't jump and I'm not doing anything, then all of a sudden they walk up to MK drive rush cancel, or they drive rush at me, and then now
Hmm.
it's their turn. And so it's like if my read is, hey, they're probably going to jump, what can I do to be ready for that, but also not just sit there and do nothing in the meantime?
Yeah, so jumping in particular, I think, is going to be dependent on the player, right? So if you see a player jumping more often than not, then your mind has to go, okay, they might jump, right?
Okay.
It's there's not an easy way to do it without basically saying you have to be ready, right? So what I tend to tell people is pick the things you're okay losing to, right? So if I don't want to,
Mm.
if I don't want to lose to a jump and I don't want to lose to a crouching medium kick, how can I stop those two things, right? And the answer
Just sit back
is
out of, yeah.
space. Yep, you got it, right?
Yep.
If I'm out of range of 2 MK, I don't have to worry about it, right? In fact, it's even better because the range outside of range 2 MK means it's perfect for me to DP the jump, right? So
Yep.
I'm not thinking about crouching medium kick anymore, right? So what I would be looking for would be like a drive rush, dragon lash, some sort of special move potentially, or the jump now, right? Dragon lash is kind of tough. Like that would be pretty wild, and I'm not gonna lie to
Yeah,
you say
yeah.
I've never done it before, but of course, right? It's a high risk thing. But you're basically picking what you're pick the things that you want to beat and try to limit the things that you would lose to, right? So again, space dictates that, right? If he can't hit me with 2 MK, I'm not gonna think about it, right? Now if they walk forward
Ah,
and you're like, oh crap, they're walking forward. Now you have to rethink, okay, do I back up? Do I try to stuff their button? Like that's the footsies aspect, right, if you will. But
yep,
if
yep,
you're in
yep.
this situation from the corner here and you're waiting for an option from them, the wake up crouch immediate pick's not going to happen here, right? Like if they go for that and you're kind of ready, like you see it, you can whiff punish it, right? But you're not getting hit by it. So you try to reduce the things on your mental stack, and that's how you deal with the options coming in, right?
It's tied to not just a player, but also the spacing.
one hundred
If I
percent.
don't want to worry about 2 MK, I
Yeah.
stand at a 2 MK range, and then now I filter my mental stack accordingly.
Hmm.
What are they most likely to do based on the player, as well as this situation and this spacing,
Hmm.
and then put those to the top of my mental stack list to
Yeah,
look
yeah.
out for.
So everything here is kind of a gamble, right? Like even on
Yep, yep, yep.
offense, you're gambling. Maybe you have a little bit of house edge because you're on offense, but here, me in this corner here, I have to guess, right? I have to do something to get out of this corner. Now, of course, what I do is I walk up and press a button, right? So what I'm actually doing here is I'm trying to counter poke you pressing something. So what I'm in my head, so as a defensive player, this space allows you to press a big button, right? Stand heavy
I
kick,
gave you too much
stand heavy
space.
punch. Yeah. So a little. This is actually not the worst thing in the world to do. Like, give me a little bit of space
Uh,
here to so that you can see if you can get me to press something. Because if I'm crouching in the corner, it's difficult to open me up, right? But if you give me a little space, I
yep.
can start kind of. You try to out neutral me,
Ah,
right? But what ends up happening here is I walk up into where if you press a heavy button here to try to stop me from walking in, this will stuff it, right? Because it's faster, right? 8 frames
counter
versus
hit.
your
Yep.
10 or 12, right? So I'm trying to counter poke you here. Now you block, right? So in my head, I'm like, okay, they blocked. They're gonna back up,
Uh-oh. The
right?
toes.
So, and again, this is more of like we've played 2 games so far, right? And this is
Yep.
the tendency I'm exploiting now, right? So
Yes.
again, it's
This is when like the more games I play against like people better than me, like the you know, maybe early on I am somewhat even, and then once they figure it out and then they
mhm.
start exploiting it, and then I see them exploiting it and I know and it's just it falls apart.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. It's tough because when a tendency you have starts to get exposed like that, it's difficult in that moment to stop doing it, right? Because
Yes.
and the way I describe it, and I've said it before, is that like a lot of these habits form because they've been working, right? Like when you talk to lower
Yeah,
level
yeah, at some
players
point.
that only do Dragon Lash, for example, they do it because it works, right? Like why would
That's their
human
neutral.
nature,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah.
wouldn't do something that doesn't work, right? So
Yep.
anyway, so you land a fireball here, right? And then I parry the this, right? And I think I just
Yeah.
cash out and kill you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Level
So
two or level one.
level one, yeah. But yeah, I mean that one was just that's my knowledge of knowing that timing, right? Because
Yep.
OD fireball, drive rush, and heavy punch happens so often, right? So eventually you just kind of get used to the timing for that, and then you kind of go for it, right? Because even if I parried in that situation, you know, I still have to deal with the mix-up, but that's better than me getting hit, right? That's better than losing, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, you're plus
Or losing
two.
drive gauge.
Yeah, you go for something, right? I just deal with that mix-up. Maybe I delay tech or whatever. But, you know, dealing with the mix-up is dealing with the mix-up, right? I just go for the parry because it is a lower risk option in that situation. And it worked out, right? I got the perfect parry and then ended up winning, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. Hear
yep.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, so here I went for a little bit cheeky here. Went for a delayed jab to
Well,
see
and
if you
I know
reversal.
I'm being
Yeah.
more passive, and I see you taking advantage of it, but I'm also I don't want to open up so quickly, press, and then I get blown up right away. You know, like I can take a. I've been trying to. It's tricky. Like when I'm on offense, I'm trying to be more aggressive, but when I'm on defense, I'm trying to mash less and be more patient, more
Yeah.
comfortable, take some throws, and then
Yeah. It's like, oh, the high level players are always so passive on defense and they always seem to guess right. But in reality, they're struggling as much as we are, right? Like they're no different than we
yeah,
are. This is a +1 situation from Ken Dragonlash, and they have to guess the same way anyone else has to guess, right? But yeah, I do
yeah.
something a little cheeky here. I go for like a delayed jab to see if you reversal. You don't, so it's fine, right? And then I do that to get space, right? So
Ah, that's a good little sequence I can do if I just need space. Because sometimes I'll autopilot Jinrai on block to
mhm.
like chip away, drive gauge, get back gauge and stuff. But maybe you don't always want to do that. So
Yeah, at that range, if I went for a Jin right here, I actually would be very close, and you probably could hit me with a 5 frame punish, right? So
that's true.
here,
Yeah, from point
from right
blank.
there, I would have been close enough where your stand light kick probably would have hit, right? And if you're ready, you can punish me with a 5 framer, right? So stand light kick DP, stand light kick Tatsu, or even like a stand light kick drive rush into stand medium punch like Tara combo. Like those are all opportunities you can get from a -5 situation, right? So I like to not do that.
Yep.
Throw the fireball.
Okay.
And even though I'm -9 here, it's difficult to punish, right? Like from right here. It can be
Yeah.
difficult to
So
hit.
why did you go for a medium fireball, by the way, instead of light or heavy?
So I typically go for medium here because the minus frames after is less and it's still airtight. So if I go for a light here from the crouching medium punch, I have to check. I think there might be a gap, right? So if someone is mashing reversal here,
Between like after the 2MP.
right here, right? Like you play a modern player or someone else, they can mash reversal here, right? And then you might my fireball
Mm.
get blown up, right? Like they can mash something and
Oh,
then
I
blow it
see.
up,
I
right?
see. I see.
But if it's airtight, they can't do anything, right, until after the fireball. But if I do a heavy here, I think it ends up being more minus, which allows you an opportunity to punish, right? You probably could
Minus
actually
11, I
punish from
think.
here. Yeah, -11, which means you could press stand heavy punch or even sweep, I think. And I think from here you might have been able to reach with like an 8 framer, so like stand medium kick or something, but you have to be ready for it, right? And it can be tough to
Yeah.
do that, right? So
Well, sweep is 8 frames too, right?
I think is Ken's 8? I think it might be 10.
I think Ken's was faster.
I think it's 10. Let's see.
2HK.
Oh, it's 8 frame. Yeah. So you might have been able to sweep there, right? If you're ready. But yeah, the reason I go for the medium there is so that I don't get blown up during the string, right?
Okay. Okay. Got it.
It is what it is. Again, if it was a little bit, if you were ready for it, you probably could have gotten me with something, right? But you elect to back
Yep.
up instead, and that's fine, right? Like not too worried about that. Max range, typically, you do want to use something that stays airtight because you don't want to get blown up by like a DI or a reversal or something, right? That tends to happen if you do that too much,
Oh yeah.
right? So you're trying to land a stand heavy punch, right? Notice that, get hit. I get hit here,
Yeah, I've
pretty
been trying
good.
to work on that more lately, like the layers that come from it, hit confirming into step kick, into all the different options. It's a good button. Like the characters I played before didn't have a button quite like that with the
Yeah,
active frames, how quick it
does
is.
everything
So
for you, right?
yeah, so just trying to get it, use it more, but not overuse it necessarily.
So yeah, let's see what happens here. I get hit, right? So here I hadn't reversaled you yet, maybe once, right? So I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna go for reversal here, right? Especially when I saw that, right? The jab. Like, okay, probably gonna go for overhead. Let me blow this up, right? So defensive
Yeah.
decision,
Okay.
right?
Next time I'll jab shimmy.
Yeah, I mean, again, you could have baited it by doing a run stop and then block, right? Something like that.
Yep.
But you went for media pressure, and I think that's fine, right? I had a read on what you wanted to do, and I went for a DP, right? I guessed, right? And I happened to throw rock, and this time you happened to throw scissors, right? It's just what it is. So wouldn't worry about that too much, right? There's no more
And
Oki after a EXTP anymore for Ken, right?
actually, sorry, something I just realized. So if I wasn't thinking, like if I didn't let my emotions get in the way, I wouldn't have gone for run overhead. But my
Hmm.
mindset was like, I got to do something. I got to get this rolling. I got a lot to do.
Yeah.
So then, it kind of, maybe you can say I got greedy when maybe I could have like, played it safe for a second, like, and go
Yeah,
from there.
yeah,
So,
that's a very common thing, mindset wise, because if we were playing a tournament set, right, or a first to three tournament set or some brackets or whatever, right, but it's first to three, you're down 2 games at this point, right? You're down a round, right? So this is set point for me. So in your head, you're like, okay, I gotta be aggressive, right? And
yeah.
I gotta, do the things I gotta do to win this game. I'm not gonna win by blocking or anything like that. And again, some of that factors in. Personally, I don't always think that way or try not to, right? Because the information you take it from the last games have to be around things like what are their tendencies on offense? What are their tendencies on defense?
Yeah.
What are their tendencies when I walk in range, out of range? How do they react to fireballs? Like all that stuff is what you're trying to pay attention to. So I try to take each interaction as it is, as opposed to the whole. Because here, you're in your head, you're in your own head going, I got to win this game to stop the bleeding. Then I got to win the next game. Then the next 2 rounds, 2 rounds after that, right?
Somewhat, yeah,
So
somewhat. It's like maybe I haven't got my offense going. I finally got something. Now let's keep it going.
yeah, because it's been tough, right? I mean, I've been kind of being you in neutral since the
Yep.
first game, basically, right? From there, it's kind of
Yes.
been able to interact with you in a way that makes it difficult for you to play neutral, right? So
Yes.
anyway, like that all factors in. But to be honest with you, I was ZSDPing here because I hadn't done it in a while. That's really like,
Yep.
to be perfectly honest with you, I wasn't really paying attention or thinking about the previous games in terms of like how far ahead I am necessarily. But it was I am selecting this defensive option because I haven't done it to in a while, and I think you're gonna meet me, right? So that's really what it ended up
Yep.
being. So this is a tough thing to deal with here, right? You did this to me earlier with the OD version, right? The difference here is that I'm
Yeah.
using a faster fireball after on your wake up, right, and then driver to close gap. Looks like you got here. You went for a parry, and then I'm not sure if you're trying to press a button here or
I think I went for
looks like
the
crouching medium
parry on the
punch.
fireball, and then maybe yeah to check the drive rush, but
Oh,
maybe it's
maybe
just
that's what it
like
is.
my
You
lack
went,
of knowledge here.
yeah, you tried to. So you looks like maybe you tried to check. The issue is that you parried the fireball, right? So
Yeah. So
that's
you can't
the
check if you parry the fireball.
well, more like how do I put this? This situation right here, right? Right here, right? So you can see
Yep.
that still you have some plus frames here, but you're locked in recovery,
Uh,
right? So you see the your recovery ended here, and that's when the drive rush, the heavy punch comes out, right? So since you're locked in recovery, you can't do anything while this is coming, while this is closing the gap, right? So that's why you can't check in this situation here. Like you'd have to have perfect parried the fireball and then perfect parried this, continue blocking or reversal,
okay.
right? There's not enough space here for you to press a button, basically, because of the recovery
Gotcha.
from parrying, right? Same thing if it was block stun, because it doesn't change the frame data when you parry versus block, right? So if even if you had blocked, you would have been stuck in that recovery animation, right? For that, right? So, you know,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, so you can go for reversal there, or go try to, because you do parry here, right? So you can try to continue. You can continue blocking a reversal. I'm not sure if you can parry a second time there. I think you can, but I'm not. I'd have to check. I'm not sure. But you
Okay.
can. You have some defensive options there, right? But pressing a button is tough because the drive rush is coming. You just block a fireball, and even if you recover from the fireball, it's probably gonna get stuffed by the bigger button coming in because the active frames are already there, right? So if you look, right, active frame is already out, right there,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
hit you with that. So you neutral jump, right? I don't punish it, but I wasn't ready for a neutral jump, to be honest. So here now I'm just bullying you. Let's watch the sequence and see what happens.
Oh yeah. I remember this.
Oh, I made a mistake. So you go for the D rev there. I neutral jump it. I don't punish it correctly. That's life, I guess.
Oh yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like.
and then you went for parry there, burnout. Oh. Okay, and then it's just passive miss burnout, right? and then you go for reversal at
Yeah.
the end because you have to, right?
I had
Right?
nothing.
No
Yeah.
choice, right?
I
And
could have delay teched, I guess, right? But
even if you delay tech there, I was shimmying, right? So if I saw you reaching, I would have tagged you, I think, with a stand heavy punch or something.
oh yeah.
So I think like where I was beating you here mostly was around some of the passiveness in the corner, which we kind of know about.
Yep.
Some of the burnout situations you got into kind of sealed
Yep.
it for you, at least in the two replays we looked at. So something you had talked about or wanted to know about was how do I defend against kind of randomness in the corner, right? So
Yep.
let's see if we can set that up. So kind of something. Let's see if we can talk about it in a way that hopefully we'll be able to showcase what I'm trying to say. Let me just set this up real quick. All right, so basic knockdown pressure, right? So typically when you knock someone down, right, you have some options on offense on what to do, right? You can meaty them in some way, right? You can try to
Yep.
shimmy them in some way, right? But if we flip
Yep.
that around and we talk about the defensive options, right? What are the defensive options that the defensive player has, right? Typically, the more common ones are things like you could just block, right? So
Yep.
that'll stop meaties, right? Meaty strike, right? You won't lose to that, but you lose the throw, right? You could also start delay teching, which would beat both meaty strike and meaty throw, right? But it loses the
Yep.
shimmy, right? There's other options like reversals, right? So I could reversal, right? It'll blow up any meaty pressure, but it'll lose the shimmy and blocking, right? That type of thing.
Yep.
So as we go through some of these defensive options that people can do, right? And there's a lot, right? Like you can do things like backdashing, right? Which would beat a
Yeah.
throw potentially, even though it's still going to be minus, I think, if the meaty throw is done correctly. But, at least it's an option you have. You can do some sort of wake up option with like a wake up button, right? Or like a forward jump, neutral jump, right? Or character specific options like Cammy dive kick, Chun-Li instant air legs, like that type of stuff, right? But if you take a look at the
Yep.
more common ones you probably see, I think the most common ones you're going to run into is just straight up blocking, right? What they're going to be passive.
Yep.
Delay teching, right? Which is pretty common, I think,
Yep.
throughout platinum all the way into diamond. Reversals would be the other one, right? That you're probably going to beat,
Yes.
right? And then the other one is a delay jab, right? So a delay jab from the defensive player, right? So typically you see delay jab in situations where you're trying to stop meaty jab pressure from the opponent, right? So or from the offensive player. So let me see if I can set up something that shows that. So if I do something like this, right? Right. So that's a meaty jab typically, right?
Okay.
Right.
I think you're +5.
Yeah, it should be +5 here, right? Right. So if I do a jab here,
Yep.
right, it's going to be 0 or potentially +1, right? But it's a meaty jab. So what typically will happen then is let's say that I'll try to describe this in a way that how I tend to build pressure or layer offense, if you will, as Ken, right? So
Okay.
kind of
Yeah. This
giving
is
away the
gold.
secrets
Yeah.
here, yeah. So
Yeah. This is what I need.
yeah. So depending on the situation, depending on the plus terms or whatever setup, whatever, a lot of times the way that I think the way I start pressure for the most part is I'll start doing like meaty lights, right? So meaty jab, right? Something like this, or a meaty throw potentially, but meaty jab, right? The reason for that is because opponents can do stuff like reversal, or sorry, not reversal, but if they do like a delay tech or a block, I'll be able to jab through that, right? Like they'll block this and it's totally fine. But this also tends to stop people, like one jab here, right? There's a mix up now, right? So if I am plus on this jab, I could walk up throw, right? I could try to shimmy you, or I can continue my light string, right? So like I did this to you a couple of times where like I would
Yes.
landed this, right? No. Oh man, my computer is not liking what's going on here. Something like that, right? So
Yep.
what this does, the 3 jabs like that, this forces you to not, you can't mash against this, right? Because if you mash against this, you'll get counter hit, and then I get to do this, right? Like counter hit confirm.
Yeah.
Something
Into
like
heavy
that.
DP.
Yeah, something like that, right? And then you get to do this guess game all over again. So you can't mash against that. So what can you do, right? You can block, right? Block out the 3 jabs, But eventually what'll start happening is I'll do this, and then I'll walk up, right, and throw you, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what kind of started getting into your head. It was like, okay, I can't just not do anything anymore because he's doing this, right? Walk up, throw. So what can you do then, right? So you can start delay teching here, right, on defense, right? You can start delay teching, you can start reversaling, or you can start delay jabbing, right? And that's something that a lot of higher level players do, like they try to delay jab, right?
Delay
Yeah.
jab. I
And
don't have that in my arsenal
yeah,
right
the
now.
reason that works, right, is because even though this jab is plus, it sometimes it'll space me out, right? So from here, I have to walk up to throw you, right? Or I can try to shimmy you, right? Or I can continue my light string, right? So those three options, right? If you do a delayed jab, it'll beat all three, right? So if I set this guy, crouching light punch, something like this. Oh, I need let's see what I want to do here. This would be a wake up, actually. Sorry. Oh man, my computer is not liking the effects right now. What's going on here? Right, so he delayed jabbed. You saw the computer do it at the end, but that's because he's, I had it set to block, I think. But anyway, you saw that
Oh, it was on block as well.
yeah, my
Yeah.
light pressure there didn't go through, right? He was able to block, right? So if I do this again,
He's in block stun when he does the delayed jab,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't come out and he doesn't get counter hit.
right? And if I set the delay jab here as well, right? So if you do it twice, oh man,
Oh, okay, yes. I was wondering about this situation because, like, they say delay button on wake up, but in this example,
Mm-hmm.
you would have to delay button 2 times, right? The first time it doesn't come out because of the block stun
Mm-hmm.
when the offensive player does 2 LP on wake up, but then you do it again, and if they go for a tick throw, then you'll get hit,
yeah,
or they'll get hit.
exactly, right? So if you watch this, if I try to shimmy, right, it'll like shimmy on wake up, it'll block, right? Like I'm forced to block the crouching
Oh,
light
yeah,
punch,
you did that
right?
to me.
Yeah. So I went like, you tried to shimmy, I did a delay button on wake up, and then you blocked it, right? And you're like, what? And then I just walked up and threw you
Or
or something.
even after a 2 MK drive rush cancel, if you block the 2 MK, I'll go for 2 LP and then shimmy, and then, like, I
Yeah,
guess
and
you're
then
doing delay
I
button.
would delay button after that, and then it would catch you walking back or catch you walking forward even, right? So I think this will still lose
yeah.
to wake up throw, right? So if you delay button, I can throw you, but if you do it like on wake up, right? But if I do this thing into throw, right, it'll stop that, right? So, oh my goodness. Right, so I will try to walk up for a throw. I should be in counter hit there, actually. Right, so you see my input there?
So real quick,
Yep.
as Ken, if you're in the defensive position, what would you go for? Like 2 LP into 5 MP
Yeah, the
target
counter hit.
combo? Or would
No,
you
counter
like
hit,
okay.
if it's close enough, you do this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's close enough, you do this, right? That.
Yeah. Okay, so slide swap.
Yeah.
Side swap.
Yeah, side swap or whatever else. But if you're not sure, you would go into something like this. It would be crouching medium punch drive rush, right? If you have meter. If you're
If
not
I
sure,
hit the meter and
yeah,
then
if
I
you're
have
not,
more time to hit confirm.
yeah, if you're not sure, right? I think the other thing too is you could go into crouching medium kick. I believe. Oh. Right, so you're +7, so you do. Right, I tend to do this. Right, but you can do something like this too. Right, if you're ready.
Oh, I forget Ken's
Yeah.
2 MK is only 7 frames.
Yeah, so you can do that, right, if you're ready for it. I tend to do this because it gives me one extra frame of leeway on the confirm, right? Because this is 6 frames, right? So if I get the counter
Yeah,
right here,
yeah, I like 2 MP more in that situation.
and
I don't
it's
mind just
gonna
going to something lighter.
it's gonna reach, right? So most of the time, even if it's from distance, it's gonna reach most of the time. So
Not the same for 5 MP, so I find 5 MP has bigger reward, but it might not reach as much.
yeah, 5 MP,
So
like yeah, stand medium
yeah.
punch is gonna whiff from here, right? Like yeah,
Yeah.
you're plus enough, but this is gonna whiff. If they're point blank, right, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it can be hard to know, like, it's hard to have that situation happen, especially on like a walk-up throw, right? Because they're walking forward, they're not necessarily point blank to throw you, right? They don't have to be point blank.
Yes.
There's limited extension, right? So if you're not 100% sure, right? I just take over this, right?
Okay.
Or if you're really ready, like something like that, right? Like into the run DP. So that's the solution out, right? So if the delay jab hits, right? So, but yeah, going back to what we were talking about there was that on the delay jab, right? If Ryu is delay jabbing me here, right, you're beating three options, right? So if I do this and walk up, it's gonna counter hit me. If I continue my light string, you're gonna block, right? And if I shimmy you, right, you're gonna hit me out of that, right? So that's the defensive option. On offense, the way you would beat that would be to just throw, right? Because you can't delay button and delay throw at the same time, right? And again, the reason I'm bringing up,
Sorry, real quick
yeah,
before we move on to this next one. So, if you shimmy and then I do delay button, it hits you. Is the idea to do 2LP into 2MP or to do 2LP drive rush or just 2LP and then that's it?
yeah, just 2LP and that's it, right? Depending on what happens,
Okay.
right? So if you look at
Yeah.
what happens here, right? If you look at that space here, right? Like, I can't jab you anymore. So from here, you can kind of make a decision on how you want to play the situation, right? Typically, an offensive player may not overextend and try to back up, and you can take advantage of that to try to tag him low, or you can press another button here, right? Like you're minus here technically, but the space here, like I can't jab you anymore necessarily, right? So
Yep.
most likely, not always, but most likely from here, I would probably just block if I was on offense, right? Okay, you tag me walking back. In my head, I go, okay, they delay jabbed that sequence, so I'm gonna keep that in mind that they know or can do that or have done that. But I'm gonna block and see what you do, right? And from here on defense, you have options. You can try to jump over me, tag me low, walk up, press the button, whatever. The offensive player here, the player in, the player not cornered, the offensive player, if you will, still has the advantage, right? Because you have to make a decision to get out, right? If I feel like you're not pressing anymore, I could just back up now, right? From there, right?
Yeah.
Or I could just walk forward again, right? Whatever the case may be. But the idea here is that the Oki situation, the guessing game, if you will, is now over,
Yeah.
right? Like you're back to neutral
Yes.
here, right? And that's the
Okay.
situation you're trying to get out of, right? So from a defensive perspective, right? Like,
Interesting. Yes.
because remember on defense, right? What's the actual goal of defending Oki, right? It's not necessarily to prevent damage, although that's a good side effect, right? The real meat, if you will, of winning an Oki situation is to stop the offensive pressure so that you can get back into the game, right? And this situation here is still very bad for you, but you're no longer guessing anymore. So now your
It's not
neutral
the
skill,
same as
yeah.
like, strike, throw, shimmy, pick one. I'm gonna pick one. If you guess wrong,
Yeah.
Okay.
So Oki situations remove, and I don't know if it's a controversial take at all, but Oki situations remove player skill from the equation, right? And what I mean by that is that instead of it being, oh, who's better at neutral, who's better at the situation, whatever, it becomes, can you guess correctly against what the other player is doing, right? Now, of course, the better player is going to have
Right.
more layers to their offense. They're going to be paying more attention to what you're doing, and they may guess correctly more often than not because they're exploiting tendencies. But at that
Yes.
point, it's no longer about, can I play neutral? Can I deal with fireballs? Can I react to stuff? Can I do any of the other skill, right? You're only dealing strictly with a guess situation now, right? That's what Oki ends up being.
It's a different game.
A different game, right?
Yeah. It's
So,
educated guess. Yeah.
so yeah, instead of playing footsies, you're playing rock, paper, scissors, Spock, sponge, or whatever the hell the other thing is, right? So you're playing that game now, right? So on offense, you want that as much as possible, right? Because the more you're able to force them to guess stuff, the more likely the more chances you have of being right and winning the game, right? Because on offense, if you're right, it's 3,000 damage, 4,000 damage, death, right? On defense, if you're right, you're out of the corner, maybe you deal some damage, right? And that's it, right? So like the risk reward there is very heavily skewed on the offensive player. So of course you want to keep them in that situation. On defense, you're just trying to stop them from having any more advantage, right? In terms of frame advantage or Oki or anything like that, right? Like getting to this situation on defense is where you actually want to end up being, right? Like you're able to stop this, right? I can't pressure you the same way anymore. I can't apply meaty pressure or anything like that, right? So that all said, you talked about, oh, I don't know when this guy's going to DP me, right? So let's talk about that and how you can prevent that from killing you necessarily, right? So if I pick
Also, I had just looked it up. I had never heard of rock, paper, scissors, Spock,
Spock
lizard,
and
but
I
I'm
forget
seeing real
lizard,
quick
right? Yeah,
now.
that's what, not sponge.
Lizard. Adds a couple more layers to it. That's good because
Yeah.
the way I describe Street Fighter to people like my wife, and it's kind of like rock paper scissors, but with like 50 other options. all in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use the Spock lizard as an example.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
I like that example too because it really drives home what is happening there, right? So let's see,
yes.
we want ODDP, right? Okay, so if I knock him down, it's gonna DP, right? Okay, so you want to apply pressure to somebody, but you don't know if this guy's gonna ODDP, right? So you have a couple options, right? So one is you can delay jab on offense, right? Right. So you see my input here, right?
Yeah, and
So
the
if
closest I've done to this was like delayed 2 MP, which is why like I think the first round we had watched I had called that out, but delayed jab, I understand why delayed jab would be better. It feels like the reward is lower though, but maybe that's not the point. Maybe you can
yeah,
just counter hit combo and it gets you what you need.
yeah, yeah. So what you're doing with the delay jab here is you're beating a couple options, right? So if they DP,
Hmm.
well, if I'm better at this game, right? They
Yep,
you block it,
beats
right?
that.
Beats that, right? So if they delay tech, right? I think they're gonna block, or actually no, the delay. Let's see. So if they delay tech here, we're gonna hit them. So
And is the key here you walk outside of throw range and then you hold down back and then delay button?
no, no, you delay button right away, right? So you're here, right? You don't need to
Oh,
back up at all.
so
Yeah. So that's what
oh,
this is. Well, at least if you're doing this option, right? So what you're doing here is
okay,
you're trying to beat multiple defensive options, right? So we saw that if I do
sure.
this, I do a delay button, right? It'll beat the ODDP. If they delay tech,
Yes.
right? Oh, is he actually doing it? Okay, so 5 frame delay. All right,
Five frame.
right. You would counter hit them if you did it if you do it correctly, right? And if you're ready,
So correctly,
right?
like how do I know how long they're going to delay,
So
how long I should
typically,
delay?
yeah. Yeah, so if we think about the frame data around how a delay tech works, right? So throw is like, let's say a meaty throw, right? So meaty throws, typically when they land, you have a window to delay tech or to tech out of it, right? So when they land, you have like a
Correct.
9 frame window or whatever, plus whatever actual frames are left from the recovery, right? So if it's a meaty throw that lands on the first frame, you have something like 13 frames, right, to do that. So the idea when you do delay tech is you're trying to delay your tech such that a meaty strike will land, so like a 5 frame thing there, and it's still in the window to tech. So a lot of people will delay tech somewhere in the 5 to 7 frame range, right? So
Okay.
it's really a
Yes.
feel
That's
thing. So it's something
okay.
you'll
Five
just
to
have to
seven.
kind of learn this, I think, and just work through it. But this is what it'll end up looking like. So you'll do this, right? Something like that. If you do it right, you'd be able to confirm that into a counter hit, right? So you're still able to apply
Yep.
pressure, even if you don't get it right? So even if they delay tech here, right, you still get to apply light pressure, right? And then you get to do that into whatever else you want to do in the corner, right? So the delay jab beats that.
So
Yep.
interesting. So the jab goes off and I need to hit confirm it. So if
Yeah.
I see a little yellow flash up on the side, go into 2 MP or maybe even 5 MP here because you're point blank, right?
Yeah, you can do that. I tend to do this
Uh,
because it's if I mess up, it's 0, right? Whereas if I do this,
yeah. Okay, maybe I'll do that
it's
then
minus
because
2.
then that'll
So,
also work at better ranges like mid screen and stuff if I'm not point blank.
mhm.
So I just want to give myself something easy for now. So 2 MP, 2 MP, and then maybe if it lands, then I could like drive rush. I can drive rush cancel and buy myself more time even.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if you get it right, it's like, you know, right? If you're able to land it, you can do this, right? Or whatever else, right? From this, because this like
Yep.
drive rush from this
Yep.
button allows you to do almost anything, right? So,
Yep.
so yeah, that beats those two things, right? And also, if they do nothing and block, you're still gonna hit them, right? If they wake up button, I think what will end up happening is you're actually gonna block it, right? So if they wake up with a crouching medium kick,
Like, well, maybe it depends on the button. Standing medium kick, I think you would
oh no,
block.
sorry, I had that wrong.
Oh,
It should be
oh,
crouching and medium
crouching.
kick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if someone wakes up standing medium kick, you can punish them for that. But this is typically what you'll see wake up, right? Because they're trying to catch you walking
Catch a
back.
shimmy.
Yeah. So if I turn that on, right? Right, it's gonna because of the delay of the 7 framer there, right? If you look at the frame data, I'm delaying my button here, but it's hitting them in the I'm delaying my button here, but it's hitting them in the startup, right?
Because it's a bigger button on their end. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But then if they do wake up jab, you'll block the jab.
If you do wake up jab, like wake up button, you'll block, right?
Yep.
So that
Okay.
beats those options, right? Alternatively, you can also shimmy, right? So if you shimmy instead, right? So if I do that, right, you'll block that, and they get out of it. But whatever, right? It's a wake up button, right? If they do the DP, right, you're gonna beat that, right? And if you do a delay tech, right, you're gonna be able to get out of that, right? So something that does happen though, something that you probably want to take advantage of or be ready for too. Some people will actually immediate throw, right? They'll wake up with attack.
Wait, sorry. Before we get to that, so if you don't walk out of throw range and you just hold it down back and do delayed jab, would you lose to delay tech because like would the delay tech throw you?
No. So if it's timed correctly,
Uh huh.
you should counter hit them out of it.
Okay, okay. During the startup.
Yeah, during the startup, right? Because again, they're delaying by 5 frames. You're delaying by about 5 frames, but your jab is going to come out in 4 frames. Their throw is going to come out in 5 frames, right? So the idea
And even
there,
if on same frame, the jab would beat it.
yeah, the idea there is that you want to jab around the time, maybe a little bit before they would actually input the delay tech, right? So if they're
Uh
trying to delay by about 5 frames, you would delay by about that same amount, right? And 5 frames is about
okay.
right because it also allows you to be safe to the DP, right? So if you delay 5 frames, most ODDPs are somewhere in the 5 frame range, right? So if you're blocking there, right, and you delayed jab correctly, you'll still
Ah,
block the DP, right? So that'll beat
yep.
those two options from the offensive player, or sorry, from the defensive player, right? So anyway, the whole reason I'm bringing this up is because you're trying to layer offense using. I'm only using one button here, right? A jab, meaty or delayed,
Yes.
right? So and that what's causing what ends up happening is that it beats multiple options, right? So I'm beating like 2 or 3 options from the defensive player by doing the same thing, right? One option, right? So that's how you kind of create and layer offense in this game because you want to be able
Yeah.
to beat these options. You don't know if this guy's going to DP or not, right? And you're scared of that. And you don't want to deal with that necessarily. So you do these
Would this be
options.
considered an option select?
It is an option select, 100%, right?
Okay.
Because
Same
I'm
with like
doing
delay
one.
tag, delay button, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, they're option selects, right? Because if you look at the definition, it's like I'm going to do one action that has multiple outcomes depending on game state, right? And delay buttons and delay jab, delay tech, these things have that. Right? That's exactly what happens, right? Like a delay tech specifically, right, is you are inputting a tech 5 to 7 frames after you don't wake up, right? And if they meet you, you'll block, and if they throw you, you'll tech, right? That's like 100% an option select, right? Same thing with the delay jab here, right? If they wake up DP, I'll block. If they try to delay tech, I'll hit them, right? If they try to do anything else, like if they neutral jump, I'll recover in time to DP them, right? Like those options get covered by doing something like this, right? So now this should lose to wake up buttons, right? So if they wake up jab or something like that, I don't know. Let's take a look at it. But if I don't time my delay jab correctly, because I'm trying to wait 5 frames or so, the jab from them should actually hit me out of the startup, right? So if I'm trying to delay by 5 frames or whatever, so this isn't a delay jab anymore, right? We want them to do an immediate crouching light punch,
Mhm.
right? Right? It should be like that, right? That should mostly be what happens, right? Because if you look at the frame data here, and I'm manually timing this, obviously it's a little bit harder, but if you look at the
Yep.
recovery and all that, right? If you have a 5 frame setup there and you're trying to do a delay jab, which is going to be manually timed a lot of the time, if you're doing it correctly and they wake up button, it should hit you out of that startup, right? So I think
Okay, so it
yeah.
loses to immediate that and immediate throw as well, right?
Yeah, immediate throw will get it too, right? Because I can't delay jab and delay tech at the same time. So if the immediate tech, then that loses to that, right? Other options are like neutral jump, right? You should recover in time to DP them. Backdash, you get clipped because they're not going to be blocking, right? But again, the idea there is that you're layering your offense based on defensive options that the opponent has, and you're trying to mitigate the defensive options that they can pick, right? So instead of being a pure 50-50 where you have to guess strike throw, instead what you're actually doing is you're covering multiple options, they're covering multiple options, and you have to see which one is going to win out, right? Like, oh, I'm going to delay tech here to beat strike throw, but I'm going to lose a shimmy, right? Like that's how the offense ends up going, right? And with Ken, a lot of the ways you build that is again through meaty jabs, and then eventually you start going for bigger buttons, right? So you can go for like meaty stand heavy punches or other things that have bigger reward. Once you get a sense of how the offensive
Yeah.
or defensive player wants to defend it, right? So that's part of the game, right? You have to
Okay.
kind of learn that. But again,
Yeah,
like,
so I guess the two things real quick on this. One is like on heavy buttons. One is on delay button. So real quick on delay button, if you're doing a delay button on offense, and I get the use case for it, but if it lands and then, well, I guess if it lands, it would typically be from a counter hit.
yeah, typically it would be a counter
Okay,
hit,
but
or
if
if
you,
it hits, then you would kind of hit confirm that, or you would go into a mix up of some kind, right? So it would jab and the walk up throw or something like that, right? So
okay,
yeah.
yeah, I guess I was just trying to think like if I didn't want to spend drive gauge and drive rush cancel like you did,
Hmm.
but now I think about it, even if I do 2 LP, 2 MP,
Yeah, you can do something like this, right?
uh,
Oh, right, something like that. Or if
and then now
you're
I do have to guess again.
like
Yeah.
run DP, right? Oh, like like that, right? Like that could be a thing. You don't necessarily have to
Okay.
spend drive, but the idea behind this layer of offense is that it's mitigating the risk of the opponent being able to randomly EXDP you, right? So that's something you had asked about
Yep.
was like how do I apply pressure without the fear of losing to reversal, right? Because you don't know, right? You don't know when this guy's going to reversal or not, right? And if you're
Yep.
trying to mitigate against that, this is how you would do that, right? So you're still applying some level of pressure. It's maybe not the same home run pressure where you're throwing, huge buttons and going for setups and all of that, but you're lowering your risk on offense to the reversal, right? And you're beating multiple options in that
Yeah.
case, right? So you don't have to apply
Okay.
offense like this all the time either, right? So you need to be rotating
No,
your
but
offensive
it's the
options
piece
too.
that I was missing because,
Yeah.
like you said, I was going for the big buttons. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going for the shimmies. I'm going for the home runs. But if if either they're not opened or they're wild, how do I like be more safe? And this is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like this where I'm like sitting in their face, delay button, just a jab, doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't have
Then
to
they
be
start
crazy,
to
right?
open up. Then
Yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah,
eventually what'll happen, right, is that let's say you run this offense, and you saw how effective it was when I ran it, because this is the offense I ran against you, right? Is I didn't go for a
yes,
lot of heavy pressure immediately. What I did instead was stuff like this to get you thinking about, okay, he's not really giving me an option to do anything. And then all of a sudden, when I didn't do that and went for something bigger, you weren't necessarily ready for it, right? Or if it was a setup of some kind you haven't seen yet, you're like, oh, how do I defend this, right? But at the same time, had you reversaled in any of those situations, right, it would have gotten blocked, right, or something else, right? So something that high level players do a lot is again mitigate risk on offense as well, right? So that's why you see me go for a lot of this stuff, meaty jabs, right, lower risk offense, a lot of shimmies too, right? I back up a
yeah,
lot, I wait for you to do something or give you space back. And the reason I can do that is because I had been winning more neutral interactions, right? So if I'm basically saying to you when I apply pressure this way is that I can probably beat you in neutral. So I'm okay with applying lighter pressure here to try to get you to make a mistake because I'm going to try to get you in the situation again, right? And eventually you're going to guess
mm,
wrong, right? And it's the same way around, right? Like if I'm losing neutral a lot to a player of anyone, right? What I end up doing is I try to get away from neutral completely, right? I go for jumps, dragon lashes, whatever, right? To try to stay away from that phase of the game, right? But again, on offense,
ah,
right? When I'm trying to apply pressure like this, I'm first of all, again, I'm trying to get a sense of how you like to play defense, right? And we talked about that at the beginning, right? You knock me down, got a sense of what I like to do, maybe, maybe not, right? But you weren't trying to do anything crazy necessarily, right? It was only once you
uh-huh.
started getting a little behind in the set or had lost a couple interactions where you
Yeah,
start going, okay, now I got a DP, right? Now I got to do something, right?
yeah, yeah.
So that's
I
tough.
gotta change something, right?
Yeah. But I think this will help a lot is that you don't always have to go for the max damage Oki setup, right? Take safer setups that allow you to apply pressure with less risk, right? You're trying to defend against certain things. And again, like if they just block, I don't get anything from this necessarily, but I still have corner positioning. I'm at a range of a good amount of, well, in this case for you, I'm good at a range of their buttons to be able to get out of it, right? And I can maintain the corner position here and still play neutral because you're backed up against a corner, right? So the likelihood is that you'll make a mistake in neutral because it's very difficult to play neutral from this situation. And then I get to take advantage of it and put you back in an Oki situation, right? And then force you to guess again. And hopefully make a mistake then, right? Then start changing up how I'm layering the offense, right? So I think that, like
Yeah,
you said,
and
that might have
actually
been
it
the part
was
you were missing. Is that how do I apply pressure
yes,
safely? And this is one way to do that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like earlier, you had done run tatsu. I think
Hmm.
it was either single or double dash, and you're +5. And my thought was like you hit the heaviest button you can that'll still be meaty. So I don't know. Let's just call it like to make it easy, like standing medium punch.
Hmm.
And now my first thought was like, why are you going for like crouching light punch instead when
Yeah.
you could afford to go bigger?
Hmm.
But I think you've kind of answered my question where you have to start off lighter and like yes I want to hit these home runs, but if they're not open, like you just take what you can get and
Hmm.
then you can do it safely and it's going to win me more games and make me better in the long run instead of just going for the crazy knockouts.
Yeah, yeah. It's you're managing your variance a little bit, right? So you're
Yeah,
not gonna like when you go for the big buttons and all that stuff, and you're kind of betting it all every Oki situation. You know, the you're gonna have high highs and low lows, right? Like sometimes it'll work
yeah,
and it'll be great because you'll steamroll somebody, but then you play someone that doesn't fall for that stuff, and then all of a sudden, how come I can't win anymore, right? Why is none of my stuff working, or I'm getting reversal all the time, or even worse, right? Like I'm losing on offense, right? Like that's the feeling I think a lot of players get, is that oh I scored the
yes.
knockdown, right? But I can't do anything because this random guy is gonna DP me and get me out of pressure, right? And I think
That's how I feel. And
yeah,
so I'm just what I'm better on defense. I exert
I'm
more
better.
pressure on defense. I
I'm better
exert more
defense.
pressure on neutral.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then
yeah.
as soon as I get a knockdown, now I'm scared.
Yeah. So that's where it ends up being, is that you have to come up with ways to apply pressure safely, right? And that this is one of the ways
Okay.
to do that, right? And then once you have a better read on how the opponent plays the game, then you can start doing that other stuff, right? Like then you start making reads on like what they're gonna do. You start making educated guesses on their tendencies, all that stuff, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's where that ends up being. So I think we covered most of that there. Do you have time for another set? Did you want to run it back?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
appreciate all the time. I really, it's been
Yeah, no, this
helpful.
is
I did.
hopefully it's been useful.
So,
I know I was running a little
oh,
late, but
definitely.
yeah, we can run it back.
Okay, yeah. I'm ready. Um,
Yeah.
Because what I do, I'll play and I come in and I'm like, okay, I only have so much time. So how do I structure my time and stuff? And then when I'm away from the game, I try to think like, next time I'm back, what should I work on, right? Because I don't understand, I'm trying to catch up, but it's my first fighting game. I'm new to
Mhm.
Ken. There's so much knowledge to absorb and stuff. And
Mhm.
so I'm trying like a lot to learn and I love it, but it's like, how do I divvy up my time? And so
Yeah.
I often look for holes in my gameplay and try to patch it up.
Mhm.
And I think this solves one of the biggest holes I was feeling, but couldn't quite put words to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm excited to start practicing this, implementing it, and then seeing
Yeah.
the
Yeah. For
results.
sure. For sure. And it's hard. I think there's a lot to learn, especially the first fighting game. You're doing really well. Just to let you know about that. But it's very difficult, right? Because Oki is really more art than science, in my opinion. Like there's some frame data portions and all that that dictate it, but again, it's a lot of it's vibes based. So remember, try not to back up too much and be willing to guess on
Okay.
defense.
Okay.
Oh, that's wrong.
Not again. Mm.
There it was, right? Delay jab.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, you see how effective that can be even mid screen, right? After the dry brush jab there, because it would have blocked
I
and
spent
stopped.
3 bars and then
Yeah.
I'm guessing basically.
Yep. Nice.
I messed up the buffer. Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Ooh. Oh.
Nah, I'm so used to autopiloting the light because the heavy goes so
Yeah, and in a
horizontally,
neutral
but
jump situation like that, you got to use the medium. That's the
a
correct
medium.
DP. Yeah, yeah. From that range, if I neutral
Okay.
jump, medium is the one you want to use.
Oh,
Aw.
messed up the. Sometimes a fireball comes out instead of
DP.
DP. It's all good. It's my first DP character, so just getting used to it. Oh, I messed up the DP. Oh, nice.
Oh, that was good. Waited. Delay crouching medium kick.
I did delay. I did delay button, but I did QMP instead of jab. I needed to just get closer. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna get in your face.
Oh, damn it.
Oh God.
Oh. Huh? Nice.
Oh, I messed up the timing there. That should have
Yeah.
been a grab.
Yeah. The jab came out, right? So.
Oh God.
The
No.
one thing you weren't
I
thinking
was
about, right?
trying. Oh, you know what I was doing? I was buffering EXDP when I was burned out.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw that. I saw you buffering something, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to throw fireballs because you can't buffer and block. Yep, blade jab is beating you there.
I messed up the timing. That time I tried to do 5 MP frame trap, but
Yeah, if you're going to frame trap, you have to do it immediately. Like, press as I'm recovering. Ooh.
I need to think more. Just a jab. Should have been a DP.
Nice.
Oh,
Oh, no DP.
the one time I take the safer route instead of safe jump or overhead.
Oh, that's
Wasn't
tough.
ready for it.
That's tough.
Okay,
That's...
sorry. Can we do one more real quick?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can run one more.
Okay. Let's do one more.
One more game, yeah. I got time for one more game. Time.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I can do one more game. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. As long as it's helping.
Oh,
But I mean, I
definitely,
think
definitely, yeah.
that set went a little bit better in the defensive situations. Like I wasn't able. The reason I
Yeah.
won those games that we've just played is because I beat you in neutral, right? It wasn't necessarily because I was
Yes.
winning Oki in interactions, right? So that's good.
Yeah, I felt the difference. I just gotta patch up. You know, you work on one thing, the rest fall. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't
others,
expect it all be fixed all in a day, but you know what I mean. Nice. Oh man.
gosh, my hands, my mind wants to do all these things, and my hand. Oh God, my hand says no. But do you fall back and do 5H cam? Like, what can reach from there? Or like on my end, what do I hit?
Stand light kick. If I misspace it, stand light kick will tag me.
Nice.
Defended that better though.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that was nice there.
yeah. What was happening there? As kind of the last thing I'll talk about there is that I had to apply slightly different offensive pressure there, right? So you saw what I was doing.
Yes.
I was mixing up jabs into bigger gap buttons, and then you were getting hit by
Yeah.
the frame traps that were coming in, right? So, but yeah, I'll say overall, in the Oki situations, you did better, right? You're able to defend that a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think I was playing around delay jab in some situations and kind of not in others, and I think you saw how it was able to defend against some of the things I was doing, right?
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah,
It's really
it's really
powerful.
strong, but again, it loses to walk up throws, right? Like a meaty throw will beat it, right? And that's usually how I get around that too. Is you just start throwing them, right? Because if they keep going for delay jab, you can't delay tech and delay jab at the same time, so you just start throwing them, and that's it, right? So yeah,
It's
man.
like it's really good against some options, but the options like if people are just spamming on wake up, like eager to throw a button, you're gonna lose to that.
Yeah,
So like it's big brain, but it loses to the small brains. That's like the one counter.
yeah.
I mean,
It's
you know
very
what I mean by
it's
that. Yeah.
yeah. Nothing's perfect, right? Like everything has a counter, everything
Yeah.
has a use, right? And then the last thing I'll say is that in those situations, remember what the goal of defending Oki actually is, right? It's not to get damage. It's not. It's really just to get out of the situation, get a little bit more space so that you can play neutral, right? You want to get out of Oki situation, like
Yeah.
on defense when you're defending, defending Oki. Your goal is to stand back up. That's really it, right? Get a little space back, stand back up.
Mm,
If you successfully defend their option, you delay tech, you block, whatever, that's a successful defense, right? Even though you didn't damage them or anything like that, the point is that you're now back to neutral, right? There's no more advantage and there's no knockdown, right? So that's really how that works. Now with a rushdown character, like normally it's not just a knockdown, but also you're applying a lot of pressure on block. Like you're pressing a lot of buttons, you're trying to get them to press, right, to get frame trapped, and all
yeah.
that. But with Ken, the way I was beating you was by making sure that my pressure was real, that you had to make a decision, and just using safe options,
Mm,
right? Like I wasn't doing anything that, like if you look back at the
no.
replays and all that, there's nothing that I'm doing that is particularly tricky. I don't think, right? There's no like, super crazy left, right, high, low guessing, right? There's no Blanca setup with Blanca Chong coming, right? It's basically Ken has some plus frames. He's gonna press something, then he's gonna do something else after that, and you have to guess what those things are going to be in sequence. And that's how I
Yes.
play the game, right? That's how I do it, right?
Yes. So how does that? I know we're like friendly, like
Yep.
how does that look like at a high level for Ken? Like so I get the idea like playing around three lights because it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
You can alt like one, two, three lights, maybe fireball, maybe Jinrai, maybe throw,
Mm-hmm.
all the different mix and match there. But otherwise, like how else are you like utilizing Ken specifically? Are you like, oh, 7 frame, 2 MK, I'm always going for that, or are
Mm-hmm.
you like 5 HP, doing as
Yeah.
much as you can?
So general game plan with Ken is basically what I tend to call Shoto space control, right? So the idea is that like for Ken specifically, doesn't have a lot of plus frames, right? Like on block,
Yeah.
he has no plus frame buttons, right? Other than like a Dragon
Compete
Lash, which is
like
special.
zero, but that's not
Yeah,
plus.
and then crouch meat punch, which is zero, right? So there's no way to generate frame traps or plus frames without drive rush, right? So drive rush, obviously,
Yeah.
you can get away with some stuff there. But the idea is that you're fishing for hits. You're playing this kind of space control game that makes the other person uncomfortable, and then you play neutral like
Yeah.
footsies, if you will, right? If the opponent's allowing you to do that, right? So when we were playing, right, you didn't jump a lot, right? You didn't Dragon Lash a lot because you're trying to stay grounded because
Yeah.
you assume or think that I'm going to be able to stop those things, right? And sometimes you do,
It's not
sometimes you
even
don't.
that, honestly. It's
But
just not the kind of Street Fighter I want to play.
sure,
And
and
maybe
that's
it's
and
holding
that's fine,
myself back.
and that's fine, right?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
can you can play the footsie's grounded neutral game if you want, right? As
yeah,
long as the other opponent, as long as the opponent is playing the same game, right? So we were both. So I was trying to stay grounded neutral. You're trying to stay grounded neutral, so we can play that game, right? And the way I was getting you
yeah,
a lot of the time was by controlling the space between us and slowly
yeah.
pushing you to the corner, right? So if you look at our replays, like I'm not necessarily landing a ton of hits, but like half the
No,
time you were cornered, right? Like somehow
yeah,
all of a sudden, even if I didn't land a crouching medium kick, which puts you in the corner because Ken's run Tatsu is crazy,
yep, yeah,
but
yeah,
if you look at the replays and stuff, like you notice that like somehow, right, you're getting pushed to the corner, right? Somehow, right? And it's like I don't know how it's happened because I'm not hitting you, right?
yeah.
I'm not
How
doing
are
any
you
of that stuff.
doing the space so well
But
as Ken?
yeah, so the threat of getting hit by Ken is what ultimately allows me to control that, right? So when I walk into your space, right, with crouching medium kick range, in your head you're like, oh crap, he's gonna hit me, right? So run
Yes,
back up. So I
yep,
continue walking forward, and you continue walking back,
yeah,
right? Like, yeah, we play the neutral like
yeah.
wiggle waggle or whatever, but ultimately what
A
ends up
little bit.
happening is I push you in the corner, right? And then from there,
Yes,
it's really like
I'm
because Ken's
terrified.
yeah, right? And it's so funny when I put it that way, because it's like people ask me all the time, like, how do I play better neutral? How do I play, better in this situation and all that? And I just say, just walk forward, right? Like being able
Yeah,
to threaten those buttons is ultimately what makes it better, right? Because like when you saw
it's
our very
scary
first
though.
game, we played, you weren't afraid of anything necessarily, right? You were up there, you were
No,
pressing buttons, you were doing the things you wanted to do,
yeah,
running offense, and then all of a sudden, like, and you were ahead, right? That first game you almost won,
I
and then
was
you
ahead.
lost because of some unfortunate things, whatever. But then game two, round two, round
Oh,
two, game
dude.
two, and all of a sudden it's like, how come I can't press anything? What is he doing that is stopping? And it literally is me controlling the space between the two, landing a couple of hits on you that make you think, oh crap, they can whiff punish me, right? And then all of a sudden you can't press anymore, right? Like, how many times
Yeah,
did I land a stand medium kick or some other button? You block it, and you're like,
yeah,
I blocked. How did I get hit by crouching medium kick, right? And that happened like multiple times
yeah.
during our set, right? And that's exactly what's going on. Is that my Ken's ability, if you will, to control that space and represent what's happening, for sometimes can force the passiveness from the other player, and that's what you're taking advantage of as Ken, right? It's not necessarily
So
this
you want to
crazy
be the
rush.
one that's kind of moving in on them, taking space,
Mm-hmm.
hitting your like the key buttons, just
Yeah.
not being afraid to walk forward. They're more scared of you than you are of them, but
Well,
you
you
gotta
gotta you
just
gotta
get in
remember
there.
they're in the same situation you are, right? Like they have to
Yeah,
walk forward to hit you the same way you have to walk forward to hit them. They have to back up out of pressure the same way you do, right? It's just a matter
yeah.
of like understanding what the opponent, how they're how they're reacting to things, right? So that's kind of the key portion to footsies, is that like in the neutral, like grounded neutral game, if you will, is
Yeah.
that when you take up space, right? And again, like when I say space, what that means is that you're representing, like when you look at a character, they're representing ranges, right? Like stand heavy kick range,
Yeah.
heavy punch, all that stuff. When you
Yeah.
walk into a range that threatens the opponent, right? Like you walk into your stand heavy punch range, right? You have to pay
Yeah.
attention to how the opponent reacts to that, right? And that's how you figure out
Ah.
how you want to play against them, right? So for you, when I was playing you,
Uh-huh.
initially I was kind of seeing how you did things, right? And you were landing a lot of hits, and that's totally fine, right? Because I was making mistakes or whatever. But eventually I got a sense of how you like to play neutral, how you like to stay grounded, how you like to react to things. And then you just apply that knowledge towards doing something else, right? Okay, they block something, they back up. How do I beat that? Delay, crouch, medium kick, and tag them on the way back, right? On defense, they tend
Yeah.
to be passive. How do you exploit that? Well, you do meaty
Gross.
jabs to force them to
Yeah.
think about what's happening there. Then you start mixing it up, right? Like a lot of time, and then you throw them, right? So like you saw what was happening there was a lot of times you knock down, I do a jab, and then I back up, and then you go what, right?
Yeah.
And then I would do it again, except the next time I'd throw you, or more jabs,
Yep.
or delay in between, or something else would happen, right? And now you're thinking, and what this is doing to you as a defensive player is it's overwhelming your mental stack because you have to maintain all those options you just got hit by, right? So if you think about a
Yes.
rushdown character, the same thing is happening, right? Like the difference is that instead of it being on block, where on offense you just press everything and it'll work out, for Ken, you have to pick one of those options and be right, right? Or, not be wrong, I guess, right? So you saw how I was applying safe pressure, picking certain things that beat multiple options from the opponent. And then once they were more passive or not willing to do those options anymore, then you can start applying more pressure with different buttons or different looks, if you will, right?
Oh
So,
shit, that's how it all connects.
mm-hmm,
So in the beginning, like if you don't know them, so you want to play it safe, or if they're not letting, like if they're being active, then you got to keep it tight. I mean, this is what it means to keep your offense tight. It's just like small, low risk things, couple
mm-hmm,
jabs, nothing crazy, where you can really like wake up and delay button
mm-hmm.
instead of like going for like something meaty.
Yeah.
And then as they you start to stifle them. You start to make them press less. You start to make them doubt and be scared and stuff. And then if I guess there's two kinds of scared, I would view it as one kind like they start like super open. They're like EXDP everything and stuff. The other kind they're just holding down back, right?
Mm-hmm,
But I guess it's like you figure out what they are like, and if they just hold down back, now you can start going for like crazy stuff, stealing turns,
mm-hmm,
bigger buttons,
mm-hmm.
like walk up throw.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Walk up throw actually is earlier on, but yeah,
you're adjusting to how they're playing the game, right? So like if my opponent wants to just jump, then I'm just gonna not worry about neutral and just DP them, right? If my opponent wants to do neutral skips, then you try to just check the neutral skips, right? Like there's no, everything has a counter, and if you're able to identify what the opponent is doing, then and you're able to
yeah.
apply the counter correctly, right? That's the other part that people don't talk about as much, but you have to be able to counter it effectively. Then that's when all that stuff comes together, right? But until that, and it's something that you'll figure out as you play the game more, right? You say this is your first fighting game, and again, you're doing phenomenal for that.
Yeah.
Like if this is like the first foray into this,
Yeah.
but
Thank you.
a lot of these things that I'm talking about, it takes a long time to figure out how to get there, right? Like it took me,
Yeah.
years, right, to be able to play at this level.
Mm.
And even now, I still learn stuff. I still get my ass kicked by all the high level players in Fight Rise, right? Like, there's so many
Yeah.
good players to play against. But a lot of the sequencing and stuff that I was talking to you about really comes from experience of playing the game, right? That's really where it ends up coming from. So, but yeah, I mean, you did
Oh,
great. I think
yeah.
overall,
Yeah.
like a lot of again, like the last set we played, the Oki situations were defended a little bit better, right? Of course, because you're
Yeah.
focused on that, you got tagged a little more neutral. That's just how it goes. But
Yeah.
you're applying some of the concepts we talked about, and you saw the result was you got out of some of those Oki situations, right? You didn't have to deal with my pressure
Yeah.
necessarily. I mean, you're still in the corner, but you're not guessing for your life anymore, right? Now you're just like, okay, I can play a little neutral. Maybe I can press a button here or something like that, right? Now you have options, right? Neutral options.
I didn't realize like it's a small change, but it's everything. Like when you're on defense, you don't have to hit home run. And I think case in point, like that the end or the maybe the first game,
Hmm.
I was in the corner and I burned myself by going for a 2 MK drive rush. And in that case, it's like I thought I had to do something crazy to get out.
Yeah.
And now you answered like, how do I do it? Just, survive when they're point blank, a
Hmm.
little bit of space, and then now is start to work your way up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You defense slowly turns to offense. Same with the offense. Like start small what is something safe I could do? And then you see a tendency. Now you exploit it, and then you hit him,
Yep.
like make the read, and then
Yep. And as you get better at that, you'll adjust faster and faster, right? So something that and
damn.
the last thing I'll talk about, I guess, before we wrap up, is that that adjustment you're talking about, higher level players will do that a lot faster, right? So you saw like when we were
Yeah, yep,
playing, it was maybe like two or three interactions that we had before I kind of figured out how I needed to apply my offense to beat yours, right? Or beat you, stop
yes,
what you were doing, and then how to apply it offensively, right? So that's the kind of speed you need, if not even faster, right? As you get a higher level,
yeah,
right? Because what'll happen at higher level play of Street Fighter, like you kind of asked about this, is that the adjustment is constant, right? So like from interaction to
yep,
interaction, higher level players are thinking about how to adjust to what the opponent is doing, and also how to adjust to the adjustment that the opponent's gonna do, right? So it's like you have to be thinking a little bit ahead a lot of those cases, right? And it's something you develop game sense, right? Like I'll call it game sense. It's something you have to develop as you play the game more. Another thing that can help with that is if you play against a lot of high level players, right? So like if you looked at our matches versus how probably your early mastered matches are going in again with Bison, or like Diamond 2 matches with Ken, you're probably feeling a
uh-huh.
lot more pressure coming in, right? Like if you took
Oh
away
yeah, but
anything
it's
else and
safe
we just
pressure
played,
too.
yeah, it's hard for you to deal with that, right? It's hard to deal with the
Yeah,
pressure coming in. It's hard to deal with the neutral game, right? So
yes,
the adjustment that you have to make at lower levels won't necessarily be as fast. Needs to be as fast or as quick or as consistent, right? At higher level, right? Because at a lower level, a lot of times people may adjust, but it usually isn't fast enough for it to make a difference, or they don't adjust often enough, right? So like something I
yep,
say a lot, again, last thing as I say this for the fifth time, the last thing I talk about, something a lot of people do is that, or say, and is that, or at least I say this, is that the person who adjusts lasts wins the game or wins the set, right?
yep,
So if you saw what happened while we were playing, I made an adjustment to how you were playing your offense and your defense,
yep.
but I think you didn't really adjust to how I was playing. Maybe because you didn't quite know how to get around some of what I was doing, and maybe you do now. But you weren't able to adjust back to what I was doing to you, right? Like you were kind of
No,
stuck.
not to the same degree.
Yeah. So because of that, I didn't have to do anything else, right? I'm like, okay, this is the game plan I'm gonna apply now, and until they show
Yes,
me they can
yes,
stop it, I'm just gonna keep going, right?
yep.
And then I end up winning the set, right? So
That's what they mean. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I've
So
heard that before. But I didn't understand quite how
yeah,
that tied
yeah,
in.
yeah. So
Well, one question I'll ask
mhm.
is, you have a game plan, they have a game plan, and it feels like they're both going on at once. And I feel like that's when it can get hectic when I'm just trying to do my game plan, but they're jumping in on me. And so as I was walking up to do 5 HP, I get jumped on and blown up.
Mhm.
And then now it's like, so is the idea you stop their game plan and then you execute yours, or how do you find that balance? Maybe it's just a game feel like with time
Yeah.
thing.
So I think it's Tyson who said this, right? Like, everyone has a plan to get hit in the mouth, right?
Yep.
It's like you kind of have an idea of how you want to play the game going into it, like what your game plan is, because Ken has a game plan of I'm going to control space, I'm going to land crouching medium kick, and I'm going to put you in the corner, right?
Huh.
The adjustments that you make throughout the game, you just kind of have it's hard to game plan for it ahead of time. I guess what I'm trying to say. So what I tend to do is I kind of have ideas on play styles that people have and how characters play, and based on what I'm seeing from the opponent, I'll try to come up with a way to stop what they're doing, right? And when I say stop what they're doing, what I mean is that if they're like, I'll give an example, right? And you just gave it, right? This Ken is walking up and stand heavy punching me. How do I get around that?
Yep.
I jump at them, right? Like I jump at them, maybe I whiff punish them, throw a fireball, whatever. But I'm playing around an option that they're showing me, right? And as you
Yeah.
play more and build more like game sense and all that, you'll start to get an idea of what options beat things from the opponent, right? And some of it's character specific, right? Like there are knowledge check characters, like you think about Kim or maybe even Bison to some extent, where
Yep.
if you don't know how to deal with certain things, you're just gonna lose, right? Like Bison especially because he
Yep.
has a lot of plus frame moves, right? So drive rush, plus frame
Yep.
into plus frame, and if you don't know what's happening, you try to press it, and you try to take a turn back, you die, right? You get bomb plant,
Oh,
and then
yep.
you deal with that and all that, right? So same idea. You have to. There's some of that happening, but to answer your question, it's half and half, right? So some of it is understanding what their game plan is, and then applying, changing your strategy and tactics, if you will, to counter what they're doing, right? And I think again, the simplest example I can give is Ken walks up, stand heavy punches. How do I deal with that? I can jump at them, right? That's an option, or whatever else you could think of. But that's one way to think about it, right? Is that like, because what's the alternative, right? Okay, we're both playing Ken, and we're both trying to stand heavy punch each other, but it's not quite working for one reason or the other, right? Or maybe I'm winning more than
Yep.
you are, or you're winning more than I am, right? So how do I adjust for that, right? Because if I stay doing the same thing I'm losing at, I'm gonna lose the game for sure, right? Like, if I'm
Ah,
if I'm playing someone that has godlike footsies, why would I spend any amount of time in that phase of the game if I can help it,
I
right?
see what you mean. Yeah.
Right? Because like,
I guess for me,
yeah. So again, I think so last topic because I probably should go at some point, but something I'll talk about here, and I think this will help you out a lot, is that you said you wanted to not play the Unga Bunga Ken, right? You wanted to play more grounded footsies. And my response to that is you should be doing that if the opponent is playing footsies, right? So
yeah.
like there's no reason, like if you could dragon lash somebody and they die from it, right? Like you're playing in ranked, your opponent can't deal with dragon lash. Why would you do anything different, right? Your opponent can't anti-air. Why would you stop jumping, right? Like just because you want to play that way doesn't necessarily mean that's how you're gonna win, right? So being okay with the ungamentals, if you will, is a huge aspect of Street Fighter 6, right? Because
Mm,
there's so many options for people to do in this game. Like you can drive rush, you can jump, you can neutral skip with all the tools, right? Like Bison can do scissor kicks, Honda can headbutt, Blanca balls, right? Can Dragon Lash, for example, right? Kim's run into like that step kick thing she does, right? All of those things allow
yep.
them to bypass the footsies aspect, right? And get plus frames or some advantage in your face, right? So if those things are working, there's zero reason to play grounded footsies, right? And I say this before, is that footsies is a response to when your opponent can check all that stuff, right? Because if I just went off the
Yeah.
handle, started jumping at you, dragon lashing, drive rushing, and doing all that stuff and skipping neutral, and you weren't able to handle that, right? You'd still lose, right? Like I didn't have to play footsies, I didn't have to whiff punish anything. I just got in your face, did these things, right? High risk, high reward, and win the game from there, right? And then what ends up happening is
Yeah.
it gets posted on Twitter how bullshit like SF6 is, right? Like, oh, I can get her. There's no neutral in this game. Well, there is neutral, right? That portion of the game where you're trying to skip neutral is neutral, like, right? It's just
Yeah.
that to get to the grounded footsies neutral game that everyone wants to play, that's quote unquote proper Street Fighter, you have to be able to
Yeah.
stop everything else, right? Like, you know,
It's predicated on respect. Yeah.
yeah, right. Like, some of it is because you walk into a game, right? You saw me master, you've seen me play, you've probably seen some videos or whatever the case may be, but you've seen it and you're like, okay, maybe Josie knows what he's doing, maybe he won't fall for some of that stuff. but you were able to jump on
Yeah.
me, right? You were able to jump on me. You were able to
Yeah.
get some drive rush is in, right? I wasn't able to check, right? I'm human like everyone else. And in fact, I'm old, so it's even easier to reaction check me. But what I mean is that like if I showed you I can stop that stuff, and again, like you said, someone's predicated on just straight respect or whatever. But until I show you that, like when you get into ranked and you're playing people, right? If you can't stop what you're doing, keep doing it, right? No reason to do anything else.
Yeah.
So cool, man.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense. I really appreciate the help. Like this, a lot of light bulb moments. So I'll
yeah,
have
yeah.
to
I
look
hope
back on them
I
if
hope
you
that
said
helps
this
a lot.
well.
Yeah, because I think what you were talking about, you were struggling with. I hope we try to address those things. I know there's a lot to talk about, right? There's a whole lot of things
Yeah.
we can talk about. We spend hours and hours talking about it, but hopefully that addresses the major concerns you thought you had, and what I was seeing out of that, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
cool, man.
Definitely. I'll let you know how the progress goes, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
really
Just hit
appreciate it.
yeah, and if you want sets, man, just hit me up.
Okay.
Just ping and fight rise, and if I'm around, I'll try to get sets for sure. So cool, man.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be down to get sets with you again
Yeah,
after I work on this stuff. So
yeah,
have
yeah,
a good
cool, man.
night.
All
Really
right, yeah,
appreciate it. Thank
cool.
you.
Let's wrap up here. You can hang out if you want, but otherwise, just gonna wrap up. So, this has been another training session. This one ran pretty long, but I thought it was more interesting. Hopefully for you guys out there, or anyone in chat still there. So this is sit down and shut up. If you liked what you saw here, take a look below. There's descriptions for a couple of discords you can join. The actual one that I run here is Fight Rise, right? So Fight Rise is a fighting game community centered mostly around Street Fighter 6. They run bi-weekly events for round robins, basically. So if you want some tournament experience, you can come and do that. We're on a break right now because it's the holidays or whatever. They also do, community showcase events every so often, do their Urge Fight series. So I was on that recently for their baseball setup that they ran for that. So if you'd like to be a part of that, please join the Discord. A lot of cool folks to talk to. And if you're interested in a session like this, join the FireRise Discord. Take a look under the training questions section. There's a thread called Sit Down and Shut Up. You can sign up, put your CFN and some information there, and put you in the queue for that. I'm also part of the Newbie Fight Club, so it's another Discord that focuses, on helping newbies get better at the game. They run lobby nights every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes they're themed, like Modern Mondays, right? Or on Fridays, sometimes they run events as well, like tournament brackets, like double elimination brackets. So if either of those things look interesting to you, please feel free to join the Discord. The links below in the description. And if you're interested in some of the past sessions I've done, you can take a look at the YouTube channel that's also down there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, all the description stuff that I just talked about should be the same. So if you're interested in any of those things, please feel free to join. If you want to get sets with me or anyone else in the community, you can reach out to there. So thanks again for everyone watching. Sorry if I didn't react to chat as much. A lot of times these sessions end up being about the player on the thing instead of reacting to chat. So appreciate you all out there. Thanks again, and have a good night.